Chapter 1063. The energy ball was getting closer and closer, but the Snow Emperor was still flying backwards, unable to dodge at all. Am I going to die? Looking at the energy ball getting closer and closer, the Snow Emperor could even feel the surging energy within it. A hint of reluctance flashed across her eyes, and then she gently closed them. I hope Bing can successfully escape. It's a pity that I won't be able to see her again. The Snow Emperor softly muttered. That's not necessarily true. Suddenly, a teasing voice rang in the Snow Emperor's ears. She only felt that she had entered a warm embrace. She hurriedly opened her eyes, and an extremely handsome man appeared in front of her. He was so handsome that even the Snow Emperor could not take her eyes off him. Be careful! The Snow Emperor was slightly stunned, and then she could not help but cry out in alarm. The huge energy ball was rapidly flying toward the two of them. Be careful? You mean this? Lu Yuan looked at the energy ball that was getting closer and closer, and the corners of his mouth curled up into a smile. Stop! Lu Yuan casually pointed his finger, and the ice elements outside the energy ball crazily surged, forming layers of solid ice that completely enveloped the energy ball. Break! Lu Yuan lightly pointed, and the entire energy ball began to rapidly collapse, turning into ice cubes that filled the sky and fell down one after another. Seeing this scene, the Snow Emperor could not help but widen her eyes. This attack that was enough to seriously injure or even kill her was so easily broken. Furthermore, this person's control of the ice elements was very high, not inferior to her at all. Who exactly was he? Looking at the Snow Emperor in his arms, the corners of Lu Yuan's mouth curled up, and a trace of amazement flashed past his eyes. Stunned, a head of Snow White's sparkling hair fell to her waist, and her eyes were ice blue and clear, without a trace of impurity. Her nose bridge was high, and her pretty face was delicate and flawless. Her red lips were slightly trembling, and there was a kind of moving temptation. Especially that pure and cold aura of hers, without any impurities, like a fairy from the heavens, without the slightest bit of mortal aura. If Gu Yuna was a goddess, then the Snow Emperor was a fairy. Beautiful, very beautiful. No wonder people said that the Snow Emperor was the most beautiful person in the continent. In Lu Yuan's opinion, the Snow Emperor was indeed the most beautiful person in the world. There were very few people who could compare to him. In particular, her pure and untainted temperament was truly unique. In this aspect, Lu Yuan had yet to meet anyone who could compare to her. As expected of the Iceman born from the northernmost heaven and earth, she is indeed extraordinary. The Snow Emperor was a snow fairy born from the heavens and earth. She was the daughter of the ice plains of the extreme north, and controlled the pure snow. Her temperament was just like her identity, pure, cold, and arrogant. Her entire being exuded an indescribable charm. Hearing Lu Yuan's words, the Snow Emperor was first startled. Then, she felt Lu Yuan's gaze sizing her up. Her charming face turned slightly red. She had never been directly sized up by someone before. Her temperament was domineering and cold, but when she saw Lu Yuan, she couldn't display her domineering aura. Lu Yuan's aura was faintly discernible, causing the Snow Emperor to unconsciously hide her domineering aura. This man was very domineering. With just a glance, the Snow Emperor had this kind of feeling. Why are you looking at me like that? The Snow Emperor was somewhat embarrassed by Lu Yuan's gaze. She couldn't help but ask in a low voice. Sorry, you are too beautiful. For a moment, I was a little absent-minded. Lu Yuan said in a warm voice. Lu Yuan didn't hide anything and completely spoke the truth. He was originally very curious about the Snow Emperor's appearance. Now that he saw her, she really lived up to her reputation. Of course, it was just a gaze of admiration. He didn't have any other thoughts. However, after Lu Yuan's words, the Snow Emperor became even more embarrassed. An obvious blush appeared on her fair and charming face. She didn't know why, but whenever she met Lu Yuan, she would become so shy. Be careful, they are coming. The Snow Emperor pointed at the Thunder Blood Dragon Lion in midair and reminded him. Martial soul fusion skill? It seems like the people from the Holy Ghost Church have some skills. Hold on tight, I'm going to work. Lu Yuan's left hand wrapped around the Snow Emperor's waist. His gaze was focused on the enormous thunder blood dragon lion, and the corner of his mouth rose slightly. The Snow Emperor hesitantly reached out and hugged Lu Yuan's neck. Her charming face was completely red. When had she hugged a man so intimately? That's how you use that move, right? Lu Yuan said in a low voice. What? The Snow Emperor was still embarrassed and didn't hear him clearly. Lu Yuan saw the Snow Emperor's face, which was as red as an apple, and couldn't help but be shocked. He said in astonishment, I'm talking about this. Hey, why is her face so red? Is it? The Snow Emperor touched her face, and her jade-like hand suddenly froze. Her face was so hot. Lu Yuan looked at the Snow Emperor strangely. This woman couldn't be shy, right? Didn't they say that the Snow Emperor's personality was domineering and arrogant? This didn't seem like it. Although that was what he said, Lu Yuan didn't know that domineering and arrogant depended on the person. The Snow Emperor was naturally domineering and arrogant to those who were weaker than her, but Lu Yuan's strength and aura were far superior to hers. How could she be cold and arrogant? Furthermore, it was said that the Snow Emperor was easily embarrassed. This was the first time a 10,000-year-old virgin like her was so close to a man, and it was even a man who was much stronger than her. His temperament and appearance were both extremely outstanding. It would be strange if she wasn't nervous and shy. Don't be nervous. I won't do anything to you. Relax. Seeing that the Snow Emperor was a little nervous, Lu Yuan smiled and said gently, Oh, okay. The Snow Emperor replied softly and actually relaxed quite a bit. That's how you use that move of yours, right? Lu Yuan smiled lightly. Soul power surged in his right hand, and ice elements quickly gathered. An ice blue light sword condensed in Lu Yuan's hand. This is mine. Yes, it's yours. Lu Yuan smiled. Soul power surged, and the ice blue long sword suddenly grew rapidly. In just a moment, it was several thousand meters long, and the tip of the sword directly penetrated the clouds. Slash! Lu Yuan waved his right hand, and the clouds in the sky were directly cut in half. The enormous ice sword fell straight towards the Thunder Dragon Blood Dragon Lion. Roar! The Thunder Dragon Blood Dragon Lion let out a furious roar. Its huge body trembled, and endless blood-colored lightning directly collided with the ice sword. Insignificant skill. A look of disdain flashed across Lu Yuan's eyes. The lightning that filled the sky was cut in half, and the enormous ice-blue sword that reached the heavens and the earth directly descended, directly cutting the Thunder Dragon Blood Dragon Lion that was more than 800 meters long into half. Immediately, fresh blood fell like rain. The Thunder Dragon Blood Dragon Lion turned into the green and white emperors. The two of them were directly cut in half from head to toe. The impact of this scene was too great. The Snow Emperor couldn't help but suck in a breath of cold air. One sword, just one sword, and such a terrifying martial soul fusion skill was directly broken. Your Emperor's sword, unparalleled chill, is quite useful. Seeing the Snow Emperor's astonished look, Lu Yuan smiled and said. Chapter 1064. The Snow Emperor looked closely at Lu Yuan. Her eyes were filled with shock as she asked blankly, Who exactly are you? Could it be that you are a god? The power of Lu Yuan's sword had completely shocked her. That kind of power was really beyond her imagination. Of course I'm not a god. I'm a human. Lu Yuan shook her head and said with a laugh. Then why are you so strong? The Snow Emperor continued to ask. Maybe it's because I'm gifted. Lu Yuan smiled and said. The Snow Emperor. Speechlessly looking at Lu Yuan, the Snow Emperor asked softly, How do you know my queen sword, unparalleled chill? This time, the Snow Emperor was really curious. Not only did Lu Yuan use her queen sword, unparalleled chill, but it was also terrifyingly powerful. I learned it after seeing you use it once. Lu Yuan smiled faintly. Hearing this, the Snow Emperor couldn't help but widen her clear ice-blue eyes. Her eyes were filled with shock as she looked at Lu Yuan. Was this person really so terrifying? He learned it after seeing her use it once. Your queen sword, unparalleled chill, is not bad. As expected of one of the Snow Emperor's 3 absolutes. Impressive. Lu Yuan praised from the bottom of his heart. The Snow Emperor looked at Lu Yuan strangely. She felt that this guy seemed to be praising himself in a roundabout way. The more powerful her queen sword, unparalleled chill, was, then wouldn't this person who learned it after seeing it once be even more powerful? There's something wrong with your gaze. Lu Yuan looked at the Snow Emperor's eyes with a tinge of suspicion. Is there? The Snow Emperor said softly. Yes, I feel that you are making things up in your heart, Lu Yuan said seriously. I'm not. The Snow Emperor shook her head. However, she was secretly impressed by Lu Yuan's extremely sharp senses. Lu Yuan noticed the strange look in her eyes. Fortunately, she didn't have time to think about it. Otherwise, she wouldn't know how to lie. All right, then I'll believe you. Lu Yuan scrutinized the Snow Empress once more. Her face was slightly red, and she didn't look like she was lying. He paused for a moment before he spoke softly. Hearing this, the Snow Emperor heaved a sigh of relief. She didn't know why, but after being scrutinized by Lu Yuan, she felt a lot of pressure in her heart. Even if Lu Yuan didn't do it on purpose, it was still hard for her to accept it. What terrifying strength! The Snow Emperor couldn't help but sigh in his heart. Be careful, we're going down, Lu Yuan said with a chuckle. In. The Snow Emperor replied softly. The two of them started to descend slowly. Not long later, they landed on the ground. The Snow Emperor's domain had been broken, and the snow and wind on the ground had already disappeared. The visibility of the naked eye instantly increased. 2 streaks of light flashed across the sky and revealed their figures not far away. It was the Ice Emperor and Chihiro Snow. Lu Yuan is the Snow Emperor, all right? The Ice Emperor was running forward. When she saw Lu Yuan hugging the Snow Emperor's waist and the Snow Emperor hugging Lu Yuan's neck, she couldn't help but stop talking. After a while, the Ice Emperor screamed. Her voice became sharp. Lu Yuan, let go of the Snow Emperor. The Snow Emperor is mine. As she spoke, she increased her speed and pounced towards Lu Yuan. The corner of Lu Yuan's mouth twitched. He looked at the Snow Emperor with a hint of speechlessness in his eyes. Ice's personality is a bit mischievous, but she's actually a very nice person. Don't mind her. The Snow Emperor said embarrassedly. I know that, but I feel that there's a need to correct her sexual orientation, Lu Yuan said indifferently. And the Snow Emperor nodded lightly. She agreed with Lu Yuan's words. She also knew that the Ice Emperor had always liked her. However, she was different from the Ice Emperor. Her sexual orientation was very normal. She had always treated the Ice Emperor as her younger sister. You dare to speak ill of me in front of the Snow Emperor? Lu Yuan, you bastard. Lu Yuan didn't restrain his voice at all. The Ice Emperor heard everything and immediately went crazy. Not only did Lu Yuan hug the Snow Emperor in front of her, but he also dared to speak ill of her. The Ice Emperor's voice changed. She turned back into that cute little lowly. She pounced on Lu Yuan, grabbed Lu Yuan's right arm, and bit it fiercely. The Ice Emperor bit Lu Yuan's arm. 1 second, 2 seconds. The Ice Emperor jumped up and hurriedly let go of her bite. It hurts. The Ice Emperor covered her cheek with her hand. Her expression was pained. The Snow Emperor looked at Lu Yuan in confusion. I'm already invulnerable. My body is even harder than steel. It would be strange if it didn't hurt when she bit so hard. Lu Yuan said gently. Oh, the Snow Emperor nodded. His gaze swept towards the Ice Emperor. Sir, stop fooling around. The Snow Emperor's voice was very gentle, but the Ice Emperor pouted. Her face was filled with indignation. I'm not happy that he's hugging you, the Ice Emperor said angrily. Hearing this, the Snow Emperor was stunned. He looked at Lu Yuan, his face slightly red. Why don't you let go? Can you do it yourself? Before the Snow Emperor could finish, Lu Yuan asked softly. I should be able to, the Snow Emperor said gently. All right, be careful. Lu Yuan let go of the Snow Emperor's waist. The Snow Emperor also slowly let go of the hand around Lu Yuan's neck. The Snow Emperor slowly stood up. Suddenly, her legs went soft and her delicate body trembled. Lu Yuan hurriedly supported her. Why are you still looking? Hurry up and help support her. Don't you know that the Snow Emperor is severely injured? Lu Yuan glared at the Ice Emperor and said indifferently. Ah, the Ice Emperor was shocked. He hurriedly went forward to support the Snow Emperor. Are your injuries serious? Are they serious? The Ice Emperor hurriedly asked. I'm fine. The Snow Emperor chuckled softly. Fine my ass. You can't even stand properly. If your injuries were more serious, you would be dead. Hurry up and find a place to recuperate. Lu Yuan curled his lips and said indifferently. Your injuries are that serious? The Ice Emperor was shocked. Hurry up and find a place to sit down. Let this fellow treat your injuries. His healing effects are very good. The Snow Emperor looked at Lu Yuan and then at the Ice Emperor. He said softly, All right then, my residence is not far ahead. I'll bring you there. The Snow Emperor pointed to a place in front and said softly, All right, let's go. Lu Yuan nodded and said. The group slowly advanced. Chihiro Snow had already arrived beside Lu Yuan. The four of them advanced together and stopped in front of an igloo. The igloo was very big, and the construction was very beautiful. It was just that it was too monotonous. Other than an ice bed, there was nothing else inside. Looks like you've been living a very monotonous life these past few years, Lu Yuan said softly as he looked at the interior of the igloo. Lu Yuan couldn't help but admire the Snow Emperor for living in such a place for hundreds of thousands of years. The patience of the Snow Emperor was indeed extraordinary. Chapter 1065. Lu Yuan knew that if it were him, he definitely wouldn't be able to stay here for such a long period of time. It was fine to stay in this world of ice and snow for a few days, but after a long period of time, all he could see was a vast expanse of white. He would definitely get tired of it. Just the thought of hundreds of thousands of years was a little scary. It's all right, I'm already used to it. The Snow Emperor shook her head and said softly, Let's go in. Slow down. Lu Yuan and the Ice Empress supported the Snow Emperor and helped her sit down on the ice bed. I've never asked, who is this? The Snow Emperor looked at Chihiro Snow with a hint of curiosity in her eyes. Chihiro Snow had an aura that made her feel very comfortable. The innate pure divine embryo was the condensation of innate pure Shi and was extremely cold. The Snow Emperor was born from heaven and earth and was extremely sensitive to cold Shi. So Chihiro Snow's origin aura couldn't be hidden from her. I know, she's Lu Yuan's fiancée. The Ice Empress hurriedly answered, and even raised her voice when she said the word fiancé, afraid that the Snow Emperor wouldn't understand. Lu Yuan rolled his eyes. The Ice Empress was a little interesting, but he didn't have any bad thoughts about the Snow Emperor. No matter how the Ice Empress played, he didn't care. Fiancé? You have a fiancé? The Snow Emperor trembled slightly when she heard this, and felt a little uncomfortable in her heart. This was the first man she was so close to, and he actually had a fiancé. She had a very good impression of Lu Yuan. After all, Lu Yuan had saved her life, and he was so handsome and powerful. Although the hero saving the damsel in distress was a cliché, it was extremely touching. The Snow Emperor's heart, that had been sealed in ice for hundreds of thousands of years, naturally trembled slightly when she met Lu Yuan. If things continued to develop naturally, the Snow Emperor might even fall in love with Lu Yuan after a long period of time. This was a very normal behavior. However, the Ice Empress words shocked the Snow Emperor. Lu Yuan already had a fiancé. Shares my fiancé. Lu Yuan admitted generously. There was nothing he didn't dare to admit. He didn't have any strange thoughts. Chihiro Snow's golden eyes flickered slightly, and the corners of his lips curled up slightly. He was very satisfied with Lu Yuan's answer. However, looking at the Snow Emperor's appearance, she knew that this was another girl who was attracted to her man. It wasn't good for a man to be too outstanding. Even if she didn't provoke him, there would always be girls who would come to her door. At first, she wanted to monopolize Lu Yuan by herself. After all, no woman would be willing to share a man with another man. However, later on, she realized that Lu Yuan was too outstanding. He wasn't someone she could control alone. She also didn't want to share Lu Yuan with others. Or rather, other than Hulina, who didn't care, the others didn't want to share Lu Yuan with others. However, in the end, they had no choice but to accept this result. They were all outstanding women. It was a great blessing for an ordinary man to be able to be with one of them. It was impossible to start a harem. However, Lu Yuan was different. His excellence was beyond imagination. He could completely shock all of them. That was why he could start a harem. In a polygamous world, those who couldn't start a harem, other than a few who were truly loyal, were just incompetent. They had the heart, but didn't have the guts to do it. In a world where the strong were respected, it was normal for a strong man to have several women. If you couldn't do it, it could only mean that you weren't good enough. Excellent women couldn't coexist easily. These were all empty words. As long as the man was strong enough and excellent enough, he could subdue them. There was nothing that couldn't coexist. In fact, if Lu Yuan really wanted to find a few more, he could still shock them. He just didn't have the intention. Thinking about it, he had so many women. The only ones he had really chased were Chihiro Snow and BB Dawn. The others were a bit of a loss. Sometimes, when a person was too outstanding, his luck with women was enviable. Hello, my name is Chihiro Snow. With a slight smile, Chihiro Snow took the initiative to greet the Snow Emperor. Hello, I'm Snow Emperor. The Snow Emperor quickly calmed his mind and said to Chihiro Snow, all right, since we all know each other, let's start treating your injuries. Your injuries are very serious, and it will be very dangerous if we drag this out. Lu Yuan said gently as he stared at the Snow Emperor. I'll have to trouble you again. The Snow Emperor's icy blue eyes rippled as he said softly. It's nothing, Lu Yuan said softly as he took a step forward. The Ice Empress and Chihiro Snow both stood a little further away, while Lu Yuan and the Snow Emperor faced each other. Lu Yuan raised his right hand, and pure energy surged out. It turned into a pure white light that enveloped the Snow Emperor's body. The Snow Emperor's injuries were very serious, but he wasn't on the verge of death like the Ice Bear King. The poison had reached his heart, so the pure energy could be completely healed. It was just that the recovery time was a little long. After about 2 hours, Lu Yuan retracted his arm. The Snow Emperor's injuries were completely healed, but his strength hadn't recovered yet. He still needed to meditate to recover his strength. You should rest well. Your injuries have just recovered, and your body is still a little weak. Lu Yuan instructed. I know. Thank you. The Snow Emperor stared into Lu Yuan's eyes and said gently, It's nothing. Lu Yuan smiled and took 2 steps back. He came to the Ice Emperor's side and patted her little head. The Snow Emperor's injuries have just recovered. Stay here and take care of him. What about you? The Ice Empress asked. I'm going out to find something to eat. It's almost dark. Aren't you hungry? Lu Yuan asked. Oh, then go and come back early. The Ice Empress said crisply. Got it. Lu Yuan replied and turned to leave. I'll go too. Chihiro Snow hugged Lu Yuan's left arm, and the two of them walked out together. The Snow Emperor's eyes sparkled as he looked at Lu Yuan's back. Ice, do you know Lu Yuan's background? I know a little. He's not human. He has the bloodline of a soul beast. I think he's from the Dragon Clan. He's called the Golden Dragon or something. He's very strong. Those evil soul masters were all killed by him in a few moves. The Ice Empress said, He's indeed very strong. The Snow Emperor's eyes flashed with a tinge of joy. He's not human? That's not bad. However, although he's strong, he's very despicable. He actually said bad things about me. Snow Emperor, you have to be careful. That guy must be plotting something against you. The Ice Empress was furious when she thought about how Lu Yuan said that her sexual orientation was abnormal in front of the Snow Emperor. Ice, you're thinking too much. He doesn't have such thoughts. Furthermore, he has a fiancée, and she's so pretty. The Snow Emperor shook his head. There was a strange look in his eyes. That woman is indeed pretty. The Ice Empress couldn't help but say as she thought about Chihiro Snow's appearance. Chapter 1066. In this world of ice and snow, Lu Yuan and Chihiro Snow walked side by side quietly. "Obuchi, you owe another love debt." Chihiro Snow glanced at Lu Yuan and said in an indifferent voice, "What nonsense are you talking about? Why do you have such messy thoughts in your head all day long?" Lu Yuan looked at Chihiro Snow and was speechless. "I'm not talking nonsense. The Snow Emperor is obviously attracted to you. Why are you so charming?" Chihiro Snow pouted and complained. "Is it my fault that I'm charming?" Lu Yuan shrugged and said innocently, "It's your fault. If only you weren't so outstanding. Then you'd be mine alone. I'd occupy you during the day, and I'd occupy you at night. You'd only dote on me forever." Chihiro Snow said softly. She seemed to be thinking about such a beautiful scene, and there was a trace of longing in her eyes. "All right, stop dreaming. If I wasn't outstanding, would you have taken a fancy to me? Don't you know how arrogant you are?" Lu Yuan directly called Chihiro Snow out of her fantasy. Chihiro Snow and BB Dawn were completely different. BB Dawn was very sincere. As long as she liked someone, she didn't care about the other party's status or talent. Otherwise, she wouldn't have liked you Xiaojiang in the beginning. Chihiro Snow was different. She was very arrogant. If you wanted her to like you, you had to make her think highly of you first. Qianrichue would never fall in love with someone who liked talk big, no matter how intelligent he was. Chihiro Snow liked people who had talent, looks, strength, and wisdom. Simply put, she liked people who were peerless geniuses who could make her raise her eyebrows. Whether it was Tang San in the original work or Lu Yuan now, they were all the same. You had to convince her first before she would fall in love with you. If Lu Yuan wasn't outstanding enough, then it would be impossible for him to pursue Chihiro Snow. Can't you let me fantasize for a while?" Chihiro Snow snorted. She knew her own personality, and she couldn't refute Lu Yuan's words. After all, she was attracted to Lu Yuan in the beginning because Lu Yuan was far more outstanding than ordinary people. Lu Yuan treated her well enough, so she unknowingly fell for him. "No, I don't want you to daydream all day and lose your mind," Lu Yuan said indifferently. Obuchi, you actually said that I've lost my mind?" Chihiro Snow was angry. She directly pounced on Lu Yuan and bit him. Lu Yuan didn't shrink back and also went up to meet her. An hour later, Lu Yuan and Chihiro Snow returned to the Snow Emperor's house with more than 10 ice snow fruits. The ice snow fruit was a special product of the extreme north. It was an ice-type spirit fruit. Eating this fruit often was very beneficial to ice-type soul masters. Lu Yuan, what happened to your mouth?" The Ice Empress couldn't help but be curious when she saw the wound on Lu Yuan's lips. "I was bitten by a little mouse." Lu Yuan glanced at Chihiro Snow and said indifferently, "It can bite you? There's such a powerful mouse in the extreme north?" The Ice Empress blinked her large eyes and was astonished. Lu Yuan was so strong, but there was still a mouse that could bite him. "There is. That mouse is very powerful. It can even transform into a human." Lu Yuan glanced at Chihiro Snow again. Chihiro Snow gritted her teeth, and her face was slightly red. She secretly pinched a small piece of flesh on Lu Yuan's waist. Lu Yuan didn't mind. Unlike his soft lips, the other parts of his body were very strong. He didn't feel anything when she pinched him like this. "Are you feeling better?" Lu Yuan walked in front of the Snow Emperor after giving a few ice snow fruits to the Ice Empress. "Much better. I'll meditate for a while later, and I'll be able to fully recover my strength." The Snow Emperor looked at Lu Yuan and said gently, "That's good. But even if you can't make it in time, you don't have to be anxious. Take your time. There's plenty of time." Lu Yuan said, "Okay." The Snow Emperor nodded slightly. "Eat some. Replenish your energy." Lu Yuan handed over 2 ice snow fruits. "Thank you." The Snow Emperor took the ice snow fruits, and her soft fingertips brushed across Lu Yuan's palm. Lu Yuan didn't feel anything. He had many girlfriends, so he was already immune to such contact. On the other hand, the Snow Emperor blushed. She was always shy when facing Lu Yuan, unlike the domineering and awe-inspiring Ice Dominator. Lu Yuan took 2 steps back. He pointed with his palm, and 2 ice stools appeared. Lu Yuan and Chihiro Snow sat on the ice stools and slowly ate the ice snow fruits. A look of surprise flashed across the Snow Emperor's eyes when she saw Lu Yuan use ultimate ice again. According to the Ice Empress, Lu Yuan's bloodline came from the Golden Dragon. However, from what she knew, the Golden Dragon didn't control elemental powers, let alone ultimate ice. At that moment, the Snow Emperor was even more curious about Lu Yuan. The 4 of them ate the ice snow fruits quietly. Even the lively Ice Empress didn't say anything. The atmosphere was very quiet. After eating the ice snow fruits, the Ice Empress and the Snow Emperor both began to meditate to recover. Lu Yuan sat on the ice stool, while Chihiro Snow leaned on Lu Yuan's shoulder. The extreme north was currently in the daytime, and there was no night. Lu Yuan was fine, but Chihiro Snow was used to a normal routine. She lay on Lu Yuan's body and quietly fell asleep. Lu Yuan gently hugged her and stroked her long golden hair. His heart was very calm. After an unknown period of time, even Lu Yuan himself fell asleep. A voice sounded in Lu Yuan's mind, waking him up completely. Ding! Signing incomplete. Reward issued. Ding! Congratulations to the host for obtaining a Spirit Soul technique and a piece of the Dark Dragon King's right leg bone. The system's cold voice completely dispelled Lu Yuan's drowsiness. Signing incomplete? Lu Yuan's mind moved, and the profoundness of the Spirit Soul technique was completely absorbed into his mind. This is the Spirit Soul technique. Indeed, it's profound. Electrolux is truly a rare genius to be able to create such a technique. There's no one like me in this world. If Electrolux becomes a god, I'm afraid he'll be comparable to a divine king. Lu Yuan's eyes carried a trace of astonishment. The Spirit Soul technique had its own unique advantages compared to soul rings. First, a Spirit Soul could provide multiple soul rings. This meant that a soul master only needed to find a few suitable Spirit Souls to gather all the soul rings. Second, Spirit Souls could fight side by side with soul masters, increasing their fighting strength. Third, Spirit Souls had the ability to grow. Of course, the third point required the assistance of special equipment. Furthermore, the growth of ordinary soul beasts was very weak, and the upper limit was not high. However, the above 3 points were enough to give Spirit Souls a huge advantage over soul rings. But did Spirit Souls have no shortcomings? They did. First, under the same rank, a Spirit Soul could provide multiple soul rings. Therefore, the quality of a single soul ring was inferior to a primitive soul ring. Chapter 1067. What did that mean? It meant that if a 100,000-year soul beast was killed and turned into a soul ring, it could only produce 1 soul ring. However, if it turned into a Spirit Soul, it could produce 2 or even 3 100,000-year soul rings. However, there was a difference between these 2 types of 100,000-year soul rings. The soul ring obtained directly from killing a 100,000-year soul beast was stronger in terms of quality. Although the 100,000-year soul ring formed from a Spirit Soul was definitely stronger than the soul ring formed from a 100,000-year soul beast, there was definitely a gap between it and the soul ring formed from killing a 100,000-year soul beast. After all, there was only 1 soul ring, and if you produced more than 1, there would definitely be a drop in quality. Secondly, spiritual power. The fusion of Spirit Souls required a lot of spiritual power. Soul masters with insufficient spiritual power could only fuse with a limited number of Spirit Souls. However, Spirit Souls were different. It was more of a test of one's physical fitness. As long as one's body could withstand it, it wouldn't be too much of a problem to absorb Spirit Souls. Thirdly, it was voluntary. The absorption of Spirit Souls was extremely simple. Regardless of whether the soul beast hated or was willing, it could be absorbed directly by killing it. It was simple and fast. However, the absorption of Spirit Souls required the soul beast to be willing. However, unless it was at the end of its life, which soul beast would be willing to automatically become a soul master spirit soul. Therefore, this was also a restriction. All in all, spirit souls were very useful to soul masters, but it was impossible to completely replace the spirit soul cultivation system. Spirit souls were even more dangerous, compared to the method of killing soul beasts to obtain spirit souls. If the spirit souls weren't controlled well, it could easily lead to the extinction of soul beasts. For example, the appearance of spirit souls was very likely to promote the creation of man-made spirit souls. The creation of man-made spirit souls required a large number of soul beasts as research specimens. This required a large number of soul beasts to be killed, and the consequences were self-evident. Therefore, even if he obtained the spirit souls, Lu Yuan didn't have the intention to spread it, because it was very likely that he would do something bad with good intentions. It was enough for the people around him to use it. As for the specific cultivation rules of spirit souls, he would have to wait until he became a god before he could solve it. After all, the spirit souls only treated the symptoms and not the root cause. When he became a god, he would directly change the rules and change everything from the source. This was the safest way. Lu Yuan shifted his attention away from the spirit soul art. His right hand moved, and a black gold right leg bone appeared in Lu Yuan's hand. This soul bone was pure black, and the flickering light seemed to be able to engulf all light. It was completely different from the Dragon King of Light's left leg bone he had absorbed before. The soul bone was extremely complete, and it exuded a rich divinity. There was also a powerful dragon's might hidden within it. The quality of the Dark Dragon King's right leg bone isn't bad. I'm only missing the torso bone now, Lu Yuan softly muttered. Once the torso bone was in his hands, he could attempt to construct his own god equipment. He had heard that there was a type of battle armor in Fighting 3 that could greatly increase a soul master's strength. However, in Lu Yuan's opinion, battle armor was far inferior to god equipment. Even the most powerful forward battle armor couldn't compare to a divine armor. However, compared to the extremely common battle armor of the future, god equipment was far too difficult to assemble. Apart from gods, it was very difficult for ordinary soul masters to possess their own god equipment. At the very least, apart from the deep-sea devil whale king, Lu Yuan hadn't seen anyone who could condense a god equipment. Soon, Lu Yuan's eyes flashed. Once he dealt with the Holy Spirit Church, he and Guyino would make a trip to that place. It shouldn't take too long. Lu Yuan's mind stirred. Just as he was about to withdraw the Dark Dragon King's right leg bone, the Snow Emperor suddenly opened his eyes, and their gazes collided. The Snow Emperor's gaze swept past Lu Yuan, then swept over the Dark Dragon King's right leg bone in Lu Yuan's hand. A trace of doubt appeared in his eyes. Lu Yuan nodded to the Snow Emperor. The Snow Emperor understood and climbed down from the ice bed. Lu Yuan carried Chihiro Snow and gently placed her on the ice bed. Only then did he walk out with the Snow Emperor. The two walked side by side, quietly strolling. After walking for a while, Lu Yuan's gaze drifted to the Snow Emperor. He softly asked, "Have you recovered?" Yes. My strength has completely recovered." The Snow Emperor's cold voice carried a trace of tenderness. Her icy blue eyes paused on Lu Yuan. "You seem to be very curious about this." Lu Yuan took out the Dark Dragon King's right leg bone and handed it to the Snow Emperor. The Snow Emperor habitually accepted it. Sensing the terrifying energy within, she couldn't help but reveal a trace of shock. The energy contained within this soul bone was too terrifying. That lofty divine power made her heart tremble. What soul beast soul bone is this? What terrifying energy! The Snow Emperor returned the soul bone to Lu Yuan and couldn't help but exclaim. The soul bone of the Dark Dragon King, one of the 9 great dragon kings of the dragon race. It was once a rank 1 divine beast, the Dark Dragon King. Lu Yuan accepted the soul bone and stored it in his astral ring. "So this is a god's bone?" the Snow Emperor asked. "Yes." Lu Yuan nodded slightly. "Who exactly are you? Why can you control ultimate ice? What is your purpose in coming to the extreme north?" The Snow Emperor looked at Lu Yuan with a serious expression. Can you tell me? Do you really want to know? Lu Yuan asked. Yes. The Snow Emperor said firmly. Lu Yuan smiled and said, I have many identities. However, I don't think you're interested in knowing my identities in the human world. In the world of soul beasts, in a certain sense, all the soul beasts on the continent have to address me as Supreme One when they see me, including you. What? The Snow Emperor's eyes widened. Do you know the Silver Dragon King, the ruler of soul beasts? Lu Yuan looked at the Snow Emperor and asked, I know a little, but I don't know much. I only know that all the soul beasts in the world have to listen to her orders. What's her relationship with you? The Snow Emperor asked doubtfully. She's my woman, Lu Yuan said indifferently. Huh? The Snow Emperor was shocked. The Silver Dragon King is your woman? Don't you already have Chihiro Snow? The Snow Emperor couldn't help but ask. Can I have a few girlfriends? Lu Yuan asked with a smile. You can. The Snow Emperor's mouth twitched. She glanced at Lu Yuan strangely. She didn't expect Lu Yuan to have a few girlfriends. Furthermore, one of them was the Silver Dragon King. This man is quite impressive. However, although he's impressive, isn't he a little too promiscuous? However, when she thought about how outstanding Lu Yuan was, the Snow Emperor felt that it was normal. A man like him should be very popular with girls. As she thought about it, she couldn't help but look at Lu Yuan again. Then why can you control ultimate ice? I don't remember the Golden Dragon having such an ability. The Snow Empress stared at Lu Yuan with a probing look in her eyes. She was the Snow Empress of the Ice Sky and was most passionate about ice. She was rather interested in the fact that Lu Yuan could control ultimate ice. Chapter 1068. You're talking about ultimate ice? Lu Yuan casually waved his hand, and icy blue energy gathered to form a 3-foot-long ice sword in Lu Yuan's right hand. It was the unparalleled chill that he had used before. The Snow Emperor pouted as she looked at the icy blue sword in Lu Yuan's hand. This was her ultimate skill, but Lu Yuan had managed to unleash an even greater power. He was much more powerful than her creator. Am I too weak, or is he too abnormal? The Snow Emperor felt that it was the latter. This is ultimate ice. How did you control it? The Snow Emperor asked curiously. There are actually 2 reasons. Firstly, my bloodline has evolved, and I'm no longer a pure golden dragon. After evolving, I obtained the ability to control the elements. Secondly, it's because I absorbed the Ice Dragon King's soul ring, so I have the ability to control ultimate ice. Look, with a thought, Lu Yuan's body erupted with dazzling golden light, and a dragon's roar resounded. The 5-clawed golden dragon King Martial Soul instantly appeared in his body, and a terrifying dragon's aura swept out. Beneath Lu Yuan's body, 8 soul rings shone with dazzling light, 6 red, 1 golden, and 1 icy blue. This sudden dragon's aura caused the Snow Emperor's body to tremble. Lu Yuan hurriedly supported her and slowly retracted his aura. The Snow Emperor's pale face slowly returned to normal, but there was still a trace of shock on her face. She looked at the soul rings beneath Lu Yuan's body, and her face froze. A faint aura surged out from her body. Don't misunderstand. I didn't obtain these soul rings from hunting soul beasts. Only the first 3 of these soul rings were obtained from hunting. The rest of them were obtained from soul beasts willingly, or from other sources. Seeing the Snow Emperor's stiff expression, Lu Yuan held her down and hurriedly explained. Hearing this, the Snow Emperor's expression softened, and she heaved a sigh of relief. She had thought that Lu Yuan was like those greedy people, wantonly slaughtering 100,000-year soul beasts for their rings and bones. Can you tell me about the origins of these soul rings? The Snow Emperor took a deep breath and asked. Of course, Lu Yuan said with a smile. My first soul ring is the demon ape, my second soul ring is the golden imperial dragon turtle, and my third soul ring is the dark golden dragon claw bear. These are the only 3 soul beasts I've killed. From the 4th soul ring onwards, I haven't hunted a soul beast to make a soul ring. The 4th soul ring was God's gift, the 5th soul ring was Titan Giant Ape's sacrifice, the 6th soul ring was God's gift, The 7th soul ring was bloodline origin soul, and the 8th soul ring was the Ice Dragon King sacrifice. This is the origin of my soul rings. As for why the first 6 soul rings are all 500,000 years, it's because there was a lot of energy left when I absorbed the Golden Dragon God's core. This energy increased the age of the first 6 soul rings. Otherwise, I wouldn't have been able to find 6 500,000-year soul rings, don't you think? Lu Yuan said with a smile. That's true. The Snow Emperor couldn't help but nod. Gathering 600,000-year soul rings wasn't a big deal, but there were very few 500,000-year soul rings. It was too rare, and there probably weren't many 500,000-year soul beasts on the entire continent. I'm sorry, I misunderstood you. The Snow Emperor looked at Lu Yuan with a trace of apology in her eyes. It's okay. If it was anyone else who saw my soul ring combination for the first time, they would probably misunderstand. This is very normal, Lu Yuan said indifferently. The Snow Emperor softly acknowledged, and then said with some embarrassment, Can you let me go? I'm sorry. Realizing that his hand was still on the Snow Emperor's snow-white and delicate shoulder, Lu Yuan hurriedly retracted his hand and said, It's okay. The Snow Emperor said, softly with a blush on her face. The surrounding atmosphere suddenly became cold, and the two of them walked side by side. The Snow Emperor lowered her head slightly, and the blush on her face still hadn't disappeared. Lu Yuan withdrew his martial soul, and his gaze swept across the Snow Emperor's body. His heart trembled slightly, and he felt that the Snow Emperor in front of him was a little too shy. She didn't have the domineering and cold arrogance that the Snow Emperor should have. Furthermore, after he explained, the Snow Emperor actually believed him completely. Of course, what he said was the truth. Other than the 4th soul ring being a gift from the system, everything else was true. However, the Snow Emperor believed him just like that, which made him feel a little strange. Could it really be like what Cher said, that the Snow Emperor has a good impression of me? Lu Yuan thought about it carefully, and realized in hindsight that the current Snow Emperor did seem to have such a feeling. Sigh, this damn charm. Lu Yuan cursed in his heart, and couldn't help but lightly pat his cheeks. Why did you hit yourself? The Snow Emperor raised her head, and looked at Lu Yuan with a trace of suspicion. Hit myself? I didn't. Lu Yuan said blankly. I saw it just now. The Snow Emperor said faintly. I didn't hit myself. I only touched my face. Lu Yuan pretended to touch his face and asked, Do you think it looks like this? It does look like this. The Snow Emperor nodded slightly, and felt that it was a little similar. Could it be that she misunderstood? That's right. How could someone hit themselves? Right, you still haven't answered my last question. Why did you come to the extreme north? The Snow Emperor decisively changed the topic, and asked the question that she was very interested in. I came for you, Lu Yuan said with a smile. For me? The Snow Emperor suddenly thought of something else, and her beautiful and refined face blushed. She raised her head and looked at Lu Yuan's extremely handsome face, and then immediately lowered her head, and her eyes flashed. Seeing the Snow Emperor's blushing face, Lu Yuan was first stunned, and then quickly reacted. What's wrong with you? Fine, my mouth is cheap again, and I said such ambiguous words. With one look, it was clear that the Snow Emperor was thinking too much. Snow Emperor, Lu Yuan called out softly. What's the matter? The Snow Emperor raised her head, and her expression was somewhat bashful, but there was a hint of joy in her eyes. Her ice blue eyes looked straight at Lu Yuan, and her voice was soft and gentle, and it went straight to the bottom of his heart. Lu Yuan looked at the Snow Emperor, and his eyes flashed with a hint of amazement. He had to admit that when the elegant Snow Emperor revealed such a shy expression, it was really stunning. You're really beautiful. Lu Yuan couldn't help but change his mind when he was about to say it, praising her. Is that so? Thank you. The surprise in the Snow Emperor's eyes became even stronger, and there was a different kind of joy in her heart. Lu Yuan blinked his eyes and made a decision in his heart. He was prepared to tell the Snow Emperor the reason for his visit, and let her decide for herself whether she was willing or not. He He was afraid that if this dragged on, and they spent more time together, the Snow Emperor would really fall in love with him. Chapter 1069. Moreover, he was also worried about himself. After being together for a long time, he might not be able to resist the Snow Emperor's sincere pursuit of him. He was very clear about what kind of person he was. He was a playboy in his bones. Although he had his reasons for accepting every girlfriend, it could not hide his playboy nature. However, being a playboy wasn't a big deal. He wasn't ashamed of it. After all, how many men were loyal? Most of them wanted to have a harem or something. It couldn't be compared to reality. That was because of legal restrictions and moral condemnation. But even so, there were still high-ranking figures who had multiple wives. And now, in this world where polygamy was allowed, it was normal to have a harem. Compared to those hypocrites who claimed to be loyal but secretly flirted with other women and were not responsible, he felt that he was much more upright. At least he was responsible. At least every woman who followed him could obtain happiness. Moreover, they were willing. There was nothing wrong with this. The reason why he did this was mainly because he was considering BB Dawn and the others. Although he was a playboy, each of them was true love and had true feelings. For them, he had to restrain himself. Snow Emperor, Lu Yuan shouted again. And the Snow Emperor couldn't help but look over. Looking at Lu Yuan's solemn expression, her expression was somewhat expectant. Could it be that Lu Yuan was going to formally confess to her? Then should she agree or not? He already had several girlfriends. However, it wasn't impossible for such an outstanding person like him to be his mistress. Moreover, he had saved her before. She should repay him with her body. The Snow Emperor's mind spun quickly. Snow Emperor, you have 690,000 years of cultivation now, right? Lu Yuan asked softly. I already have 690,000 years of cultivation. The Snow Emperor nodded and said. Although he didn't know what Lu Yuan meant by this, the Snow Emperor directly admitted it. Then, are you confident that you can pass the 700,000 years of tribulation? Lu Yuan asked again. No. The Snow Emperor shook her head, and the anticipation in her heart dissipated. She was not confident that she could successfully break through the 700,000-year heavenly tribulation, but the man in front of her had the opportunity to become a god, and his lifespan was endless. It seemed that they could not be together. The atmosphere became heavy all of a sudden. The Snow Emperor bit her red lips, her expression somewhat downcast. Do you want to break into the immortal eternity? Lu Yuan asked. I want to. The Snow Emperor's tone was firm. Of course she wanted to. After all, which soul beast didn't want to break through to the immortal realm? Lu Yuan looked at the Snow Emperor and sighed softly. Soul beasts can't become gods in this world, but humans can. The Titan giant ape sacrificed itself for me, and after I become a god, I can revive it. It can also live forever. Hearing this, the Snow Emperor's heart trembled. Her beautiful face changed slightly, and a pair of icy blue eyes stared closely at Lu Yuan. She was also very smart and immediately understood the hidden meaning of Lu Yuan's words. So you want my soul ring? The Snow Emperor's beautiful face was a little pale, and there was a trace of bitterness in her expression. He said that he came for her, but he actually came for her soul ring? Can you let me finish? Lu Yuan asked softly. Speak. The Snow Emperor said coldly. Lu Yuan's polychorous eyes blinked, and his tone was low. In the human world, there are two ways to become a god. The first is to create a god position, and the second is to inherit the god position of an ancestor god. For example, the bloodsword imprint on my head is the inheritance imprint of the Azura god, and the angel imprint on Cher's head is the inheritance imprint of the six-winged angel god. We are the inheritors of the Azura god and the angel god respectively. Inheritors like us can accept the god position and become a god as long as we complete the 9 tests. As of now, Cher has already completed the 7 tests and is currently undergoing her 8 tests. Cher was born with the cold origin of her second martial soul, But to truly obtain her second martial soul, she still needs to find a soul beast that is over 100,000 years old and willing to sacrifice it as her martial soul. So her 8 tests is to find her second martial soul and gather all her soul rings at the same time. As long as she does this, she will be able to complete the 8 tests and enter the 9 tests. As long as she passes the 9 tests, she will become a new 6-winged angel god. Because her second martial soul is the cold in origin, it must be an ice-type soul beast. The higher the rank of the soul beast, the stronger the second martial soul, and the greater the benefits. So you chose me, right? The Snow Emperor said coldly. Lu Yuan nodded his head lightly and said, Indeed, I chose you first because you're the Ice Sky Snow Lady, the purest ice spirit. There's no ice-type soul beast that's stronger than you right now. You are honest. The Snow Emperor said coldly. I know you will be angry, but this matter is beneficial to both sides. You also have a cultivation of 690,000 years. If you don't fight now, when the heavenly tribulation doesn't pass, you will turn into ashes. As a friend, I don't want to see you die. Furthermore, Cher is already in the 8 tests. She will definitely become a god. When the time comes, I will revive you and you will enjoy eternal life. Of course, these are only my thoughts. If you are really unwilling, I will not force you. I will respect your decision. Lu Yuan looked at the Snow Emperor with a sincere gaze. If the Snow Emperor was really unwilling, he could only talk to the Ice Empress. If the Ice Empress was also unwilling, then he could just find a suitable 100,000-year soul beast. There were many 100,000-year soul beasts in the extreme north. There was bound to be someone willing. However, in his heart, he still hoped that it would be the Snow Emperor. The continent was now in a mess because of him. After 10,000 years, there would definitely be no Snow Emperor. When the time came, no one knew what the Snow Emperor's fate would be. He didn't want to see the Snow Emperor die. After hearing Lu Yuan's words, the Snow Emperor's heart trembled. She raised her head and looked straight into Lu Yuan's eyes. Lu Yuan didn't shrink back. He looked straight into the Snow Emperor's eyes. Time passed, and the two of them looked at each other for half an hour. The Snow Emperor sighed softly and suddenly asked, If you go back this time, will you come back to the extreme north? If I gather all of Cher's soul rings, I probably won't come back. Lu Yuan said softly. Hearing this, the Snow Emperor gently closed her eyes. Thoughts were fighting in her mind. After a moment, she gently opened her eyes with a trace of determination. I agree to your request. I am willing to be Chihiro Snow's second martial soul. The Snow Emperor looked at Lu Yuan and said word by word. After hearing this, Lu Yuan couldn't help but be stunned. Then he was delighted. Chapter 1070. Are you telling the truth? Are you really willing? Lu Yuan couldn't help but ask again. Yes. The Snow Emperor nodded lightly. His ice-blue eyes stared straight at Lu Yuan, and a strange light flickered in his eyes. Looking at the Snow Emperor's eyes, Lu Yuan instantly understood everything. He sighed in his heart and said, When Cher becomes a god, she will revive you. I promise you. Okay. The Snow Emperor nodded softly, but his eyes didn't leave Han Shaw. Lu Yuan blinked his eyes, and his double pupils flickered. He felt an inexplicable pressure in his heart. Where did you guys go? Why did you only come back now? Lu Yuan and the Snow Emperor returned to the Snow Emperor's house. At this time, the Ice Empress and Chihiro Snow had already woken up. The two of them looked at Lu Yuan and the Snow Emperor with a hint of scrutiny. We went out for a walk, Lu Yuan said indifferently. You guys went out for a walk. The Ice Empress moved her little head over and dragged the Snow Emperor away from Lu Yuan. She looked at Lu Yuan warily. The Snow Emperor is mine? You're not allowed to snatch him from me. The Ice Empress once again declared her ownership of the Snow Emperor. Ice, what nonsense are you talking about? The Snow Emperor glared at the Ice Empress. He looked at Lu Yuan and explained, Don't misunderstand. Ice is just playing around. I understand. Lu Yuan pinched the Ice Empress' cheeks. Seeing her look of disdain, he smiled and looked at Chihiro Snow. Cher, come with me. I have something to tell you. He then looked at the Snow Emperor. Excuse me for a moment. I'll be back soon. Okay. The Snow Emperor nodded. Lu Yuan walked out of the igloo, and Chihiro Snow followed behind him. Ice. I also have something to tell you, the Snow Emperor said to the Ice Empress as he watched Lu Yuan and Ice Empress walk out of the igloo. Outside the igloo, Lu Yuan and Chihiro Snow stood facing each other. Obuchi, you and the Snow Emperor, you can misunderstand? Lu Yuan glanced at Chihiro Snow and asked. Chihiro Snow was silent. You still don't trust me enough. Lu Yuan sighed softly, looking a little downcast. Chihiro Snow was silent again. She found it hard to trust Lu Yuan in this aspect. After all, the Snow Emperor was too beautiful. Lu Yuan didn't have any feelings for the Snow Emperor. Forget it. Let's not talk about this. The Snow Emperor has agreed to be your second martial soul, Lu Yuan said calmly. She agreed. Chihiro Snow's eyes lit up, and there was a hint of joy on her face. This was definitely a piece of news that was worth a pleasant surprise. How did she agree? Chihiro Snow asked. Lu Yuan recounted his conversation with the Snow Emperor to Chihiro Snow. Chihiro Snow's golden eyes blinked slightly, and there was a hint of apology on her face. I'm sorry, Obuchi. I misunderstood you. So Lu Yuan and the Snow Emperor went out alone to discuss this matter, and she was suspicious of everything. She couldn't help but feel a little ashamed. I'm used to it. It doesn't matter anymore, Lu Yuan replied calmly. Hearing this, Chihiro Snow bit her red lips and said, but my guess wasn't wrong. The Snow Emperor likes you, and she agreed so readily in the end. You're part of it. Lu Yuan's gaze was downcast, and he didn't say anything. You're too outstanding, and you're too attractive to women. It's just that the Snow Emperor's feelings were so obvious, and you were still able to so decisively ask her to sacrifice herself. Obuchi, this is the first time I've felt that you have a ruthless side to you. He knew that the Snow Emperor liked him, yet he still asked the Snow Emperor to sacrifice herself. Lu Yuan's actions made Chihiro Snow's heart tremble. I'm ruthless. I did that to save her. After the sacrifice, she can still be resurrected. But if she doesn't survive the heavenly tribulation, she'll turn into ashes. And who am I doing this for? Is it because I need her to sacrifice herself? Lu Yuan looked at Chihiro Snow, and there was a hint of pressure in his eyes. Chihiro Snow's expression changed. She stepped forward and hugged Lu Yuan. I'm sorry, Obuchi. I said the wrong thing, Chihiro Snow said softly. Lu Yuan snorted. He was actually very depressed and unhappy. It wasn't that he didn't understand the Snow Emperor's thoughts, but such a choice wasn't a bad thing for the Snow Emperor. On the other hand, it was more for Chihiro Snow. After all, she was his first love and the first person he liked. He was always partial to Chihiro Snow. But now, Chihiro Snow's words made him a little unhappy. Did he look like the kind of person who was heartless? Obuchi. Chihiro Snow kissed Lu Yuan. Lu Yuan's eyes flickered, and he glanced at Chihiro Snow. Cher, when we go back this time, I'm going to marry Dong Air first. You don't have any objections, right? Hearing this, Chihiro Snow's delicate body trembled, and her beautiful face turned slightly pale. She looked at Lu Yuan, and her golden eyes were covered with a layer of mist. She understood the meaning behind Lu Yuan's words. The first to enter the door was the eldest. You've decided? Chihiro Snow bit her red lips and asked in a trembling voice. I've already decided, and this is a decision I've made after thinking about it for a long time. Lu Yuan said in a flat tone. Aren't you afraid that she'll target me? Chihiro Snow asked. Has she ever targeted you? I've seen that you've targeted her. Lu Yuan's expression was calm as he said softly. Hearing this, Chihiro Snow's face turned even paler. I originally thought that you were the most suitable, but now it seems that you're still a little young and your methods are still immature. They're not convinced by you. Lu Yuan shook his head and said, Who's not convinced? BB Dawn? Chihiro Snow asked. Dong Air, Nar, and Nana are not convinced by you. As for Zhu Qing, she's always been neutral, and Rong Rong doesn't care about anything at all. Who among them can you control? Lu Yuan retorted. Then can she control BB Dawn? Chihiro Snow asked, unconvinced. She can control them. Cher, you have to admit that you're not as good as Dong Air in this aspect. Lu Yuan said softly. Chihiro Snow frowned, and her silver teeth fiercely bit her red lips. Sparkling and translucent tears swirled in her eyes, and an unyielding and stubborn expression appeared on her face. Lu Yuan sighed softly and gently caressed Chihiro Snow's beautiful face. Then he kissed Chihiro Snow's red lips and hugged her tightly. Chihiro Snow leaned into Lu Yuan's embrace and didn't say a word. Although the two of them were hugging, a tense atmosphere filled the air. Bastard Lu Yuan, what did you say to my sister? The two of them were still hugging when a delicate voice suddenly rang out beside them. Lu Yuan turned his head and saw the Ice Empress with a fierce expression, and she was pouncing towards Lu Yuan with her fangs bared and claws brandished. Lu Yuan stretched out his hand and pressed down on the Ice Empress' head. In her human form, the Ice Empress was only 6 meters tall, and Lu Yuan was 9 meters tall. When his hand pressed down on the Ice Empress' head, no matter how much she struggled, she couldn't pull Lu Yuan away. Chapter 1071. What's wrong with you this time? Lu Yuan pressed down on the Ice Empress' head and said, unhappily, I'm not crazy. You bastard, what kind of flowery words did you say to my sister? She actually said that she wanted to sacrifice herself for Qianren Xue and asked me to take care of myself. You bastard, are you after my sister's soul ring? Is that why you're deliberately lying to her? The Ice Empress was furious as she pulled Lu Yuan's hand away and roared at Lu Yuan. The Snow Emperor knows whether I lied to her or not. The Snow Emperor knows best. I don't have to explain myself to you. Lu Yuan retracted his hand and said plainly, you bastard, how dare you be so arrogant after doing something bad? I'll bite you to death. The Ice Empress was furious. She opened her mouth and was about to bite Lu Yuan. Stop, Ice! The Snow Emperor shouted. She appeared behind the Ice Empress and pulled her back. After that, she said apologetically, I'm sorry. Ice is too agitated. It's okay. I understand. Lu Yuan said softly. Yes, but can you wait a few days for the sacrifice? I have some things to settle. The Snow Emperor said gently. You can settle it. We're not in a hurry. Lu Yuan said. Thank you. The Snow Emperor's red lips parted slightly as she said softly. We should be the ones thanking you. Lu Yuan shook his head and said. The Snow Emperor smiled faintly when she heard this. Her smile was radiant and gentle. Coupled with her beautiful face, she exuded an indescribable charm. The Snow Emperor led the Ice Empress away. She didn't even look at Chihiro Snow from the beginning to the end, even though the person she wanted to sacrifice was Chihiro Snow. Lu Yuan sighed faintly and hugged Chihiro Snow tightly in his arms. His right hand couldn't help but stroke her long blonde hair. He really didn't expect that just by coming to the extreme north, he would get into another relationship. Didn't he just save the Snow Emperor's life? But it actually moved the Snow Emperor? Lu Yuan didn't expect the old trick of saving the damsel in distress to be so lethal. However, thinking about it carefully, the Snow Emperor, the ruler of ice who had been alone for hundreds of thousands of years, was saved for the first time by someone. Furthermore, the person who saved him was so outstanding, terrifyingly powerful, and perfect in all aspects. It seemed reasonable that he would be moved. After all, sometimes it only took a moment to fall in love with someone. It was indeed good that feelings developed over time, but it didn't mean that there wasn't love at first sight. Although most of the love at first sight was due to lust, cough cough, Lu Yuan was quietly in a daze. Suddenly, he felt pain on his lips. Chihiro Snow's stubborn gaze was reflected in his eyes. Lu Yuan's heart skipped a beat. What an eventful day. 3 days passed in the blink of an eye. After the Snow Emperor made some arrangements in the extreme north, she, Lu Yuan, and the others arrived at a vast expanse of snow. There was a huge white bear on the snow. It was the Ice Bear King, who was on his last breath and watching Lu Yuan prolong his life. I really didn't expect Little White to be so heavily injured. There was a trace of pity in the Snow Emperor's eyes. She had raised the Ice Bear King since he was young, and he was like her own child. Seeing the Ice Bear King dying made her heart ache. "Can you let Little White sacrifice with me?" The Snow Emperor looked at Lu Yuan. "I'm honored." Lu Yuan smiled and replied softly. The Ice Bear King's sacrifice was definitely a good thing for Chihiro Snow. "Then let's begin now," the Snow Emperor said. "There's no rush. Our sacrifice this time is different from normal sacrifices. More accurately speaking, it's not really a sacrifice. It can be done as long as the soul beast is willing. I have a set of techniques called the art of soul spirits." Lu Yuan explained to the Snow Empress and the others the characteristics of the spirit soul technique. Compared to soul rings, the spirit soul technique has quite a bit of an advantage. The spirit soul technique can even take form and fight alongside the soul cultivator. In other words, even if you become a spirit soul, you can come out as you please as long as you're not too far away from the soul cultivator. Lu Yuan said softly, "There's such a technique?" A look of astonishment flashed across the Snow Emperor's eyes. Spirit soul techniques were unheard of. "Yes, but this is the first time I'm using spirit soul techniques. That's why I'll demonstrate before we begin." Lu Yuan spoke softly, and a fiery red light was released from between his eyebrows. A reddish-gold god core floated above Lu Yuan's head. At the same time, a monstrous flame surrounded Lu Yuan's body, and the surrounding temperature rose rapidly. "Come out, Fire Dragon King!" Lu Yuan shouted, and a loud dragon roar sounded. The Fire Dragon King burrowed out from between Lu Yuan's eyebrows and transformed into a fiery red dragon that was several hundred feet long. Scorching flames burned on the surface of its body, and the surrounding ice and snow started to melt slowly under the heat. What a strong pressure! The Snow Emperor and the Ice Empress were trembling, and their eyebrows were tightly furrowed. They were masters of ultimate ice, and they hated the fire element. The Fire Dragon King's terrifying fire abilities made them feel very uncomfortable. With a thought, a golden magic array appeared around Lu Yuan and the Fire Dragon King, enveloping both him and the Fire Dragon King. Lu Yuan's finger moved in the air, and a contract formed from golden light appeared. A contract was the core of a spirit. Only when both parties established a connection could a spirit be created. Of course, it was different from an equal contract. A spirit contract was led by the Soul Master. Between a Soul Master and a Spirit Soul, the Soul Master had more of an advantage. Although that was the case, both parties had to be willing to sign a contract. As long as one party didn't agree, the contract couldn't be successfully created. Electrolux came from the divine throne world. There were mages and knights there, and it was very common for them to form a contract with a magical beast. Therefore, Electrolux naturally applied it to spirits. The contract split into two parts and entered the glabella of both Lu Yuan and the Fire Dragon King. Both parties were willing, and the contract was immediately formed. The Fire Dragon King directly entered the Fire Dragon King's god core. A scarlet gold light flashed, and the Fire Dragon King's god core immediately turned into a scarlet gold soul ring that entered the empty space of Lu Yuan's ninth soul ring. Boundless energy poured into Lu Yuan's body from the soul ring. Lu Yuan became a titled Douluo in an instant, and Lu Yuan's clear air scripture also broke through to the 9th level. Lu Yuan's soul power surged like a river, and his aura was still strengthening. This time, Lu Yuan completely relied on himself to absorb the Fire Dragon King's god core. The abundant divine power caused Lu Yuan's soul power to soar again. Dragon roars rang out, and scarlet red flames spread. They enveloped a 500-meter radius around Lu Yuan and formed a forbidden area that couldn't be entered. Chapter 1072. The fiery red flames burned fiercely and radiated a terrifying temperature. The Snow Emperor, the Ice Empress, and the rest retreated continuously. Even they couldn't withstand the terrifying temperature. What powerful flames! They're not inferior to my ultimate ice. No, they've already surpassed the level of ultimate ice. The Snow Emperor couldn't hide the astonishment on her delicate face. This was the first time she'd felt such an existence that vaguely surpassed the level of ultimate ice. However, it wasn't the ice that she was very familiar with. It was the fire that she was naturally most resistant to. Ice and fire countered each other. Whatever was stronger could counter the other. However, it was obvious that the flames on the Fire Dragon King's body were stronger than the Snow Emperor's ultimate ice. The Ice Empress furrowed her beautiful brows and said softly, "It's indeed very strong. I felt very hot just now. I felt like I was going to melt under that temperature. I think it's all right. The temperature is indeed very high, but I don't feel too uncomfortable. I'll be fine as long as I don't get too close." Chihiro Snow's red lips parted slightly. Her 8-winged angel martial soul possessed the ability of ultimate fire. Hence, her resistance to the fire element was much stronger than the Snow Emperor and the Ice Empress. The Snow Emperor glanced at Chihiro Snow and suddenly asked, "Does Lu Yuan like you a lot?" The Snow Emperor couldn't help but ask this question when he recalled how Lu Yuan had accompanied Chihiro Snow to the extreme north and was so worried about her second martial soul. Chihiro Snow looked at the Snow Emperor and blinked her golden eyes as she replied, "I guess so." "What do you mean by that?" The Snow Emperor furrowed her brows. "I used to think that he loved me the most. However, I'm not so sure now." Chihiro Snow suddenly paused as she spoke. She looked into the Snow Emperor's eyes and asked, "You like Obuchi, right?" The Snow Emperor lowered her head and remained silent. She did like Lu Yuan. Although it wasn't to the point of dying for him, she did like him. Chihiro Snow could naturally tell what the Snow Emperor was thinking. She smiled and said, "You made the right choice this time. If you follow me, you might have a chance to be with him in the future. But if you stay here, you definitely won't have a chance." The Snow Emperor shook his head and said, "I made this choice for the sake of eternal life, not for him." You know best whether or not Obuchi is involved. Of course, it's best if you don't, but I hope you don't. I don't want to see another person sharing Obuchi with me. Chihiro Snow sneered. "Don't spout nonsense. How could the Snow Emperor like Lu Yuan? He's mine." The Ice Empress hugged the Snow Emperor and fiercely refuted. Chihiro Snow looked at the Ice Empress with her beautiful eyes. She suddenly shook her head and said, "You don't know what love is. You don't understand the Snow Emperor at all. He only treats you as a younger sister." "Nonsense," the Ice Empress said angrily. "Haha, just take it that I'm spouting nonsense." Chihiro Snow smiled. She couldn't be bothered to argue with the Ice Empress. Although the Ice Empress was old, she still didn't know anything in certain aspects. She was very naive. Her gaze shifted slightly and landed on Lu Yuan, who wasn't far away. Lu Yuan's body was covered in fiery red flames. However, these flames didn't threaten him at all. On the contrary, they made his aura stronger and stronger. Absorbing a soul ring wasn't a short process. It was the same for turning a soul ring into a spirit. Although it was voluntary, the pressure on the soul ring wasn't small at all. Furthermore, the energy contained in the Fire Dragon King's soul ring was too immense. Even Lu Yuan needed a lot of time to absorb it. About half a day passed. Lu Yuan's body suddenly shone with a scarlet gold light. His aura was instantly raised to its peak. An aura that was several times stronger than before was released from Lu Yuan's body. It caused Chihiro Snow and the others to tremble. This was especially so for Chihiro Snow. She was astonished. Lu Yuan gave her a lofty feeling. He wasn't much different from an angel god. It was obvious that Lu Yuan's strength had increased to a terrifying level. Lu Yuan's mind moved. His 5-clawed golden dragon king roared into the sky. His 9 soul rings, 6 red, 1 golden, 1 icy blue, and 1 scarlet gold, exuded dazzling lights. An invisible pressure spread out and instantly enveloped half of the extreme north. This pressure ignored the Ice Empress, the Snow Emperor, and Chihiro Snow. However, the other soul beasts couldn't avoid it all. Under this terrifying pressure, all the soul beasts in the extreme north that were enveloped by this aura all knelt down and felt a sense of submission. Regardless of whether they were 100,000-year soul beasts or 10,000-year soul beasts, they were all equal under this pressure. They could only crawl on the ground. The pressure spread for about 2 minutes before Lu Yuan retracted it. Only then did the soul beasts feel as if they had been pardoned and had a chance to breathe. All the soul beasts looked in the direction of the core region with fearful eyes. They didn't know what kind of terrifying existence had appeared there. Lu Yuan slowly retracted his pressure in the core region. His dual pupils opened slightly. As he opened them, streaks of sharp lights were dazzling. They carried a frightening deterrent force. Lu Yuan casually waved his hand. His 9th scarlet gold soul ring lit up. The Fire Dragon King burrowed out from his soul ring and transformed into a huge dragon that was several hundred feet long. Lu Yuan stepped into the air and flew up. He stood on the Fire Dragon King's head. A man and a dragon exuded a biting cold aura. Lu Yuan gently clenched his fists. His strength had already increased to an extremely terrifying level as he continued to grow stronger. Even he himself did not know how much strength he had. In any case, even a first-rank god or a god king might not be a match for him in terms of strength. Of course, strength was only strength. In a battle, strength was only a part of one's fighting strength. It didn't represent one's true fighting strength. After absorbing the Fire Dragon King's soul ring, my divine body has completely evolved into a first-rank god body. My soul power has also increased to rank 95. The breakthrough this time was a huge gain. Of course, the biggest gain is that the clear air scripture has broken through to the 9th layer. When endless stream, Lu Yuan's lips curled into a smile. In the future, I can use the Godslayer spear as I wish. There are no restrictions. My fighting strength has soared. Lu Yuan was very happy. A Godslayer spear without restrictions was definitely terrifying beyond imagination. Soon, the day of our counterattack on the God world is getting closer and closer. A look of excitement flashed past Lu Yuan's eyes. He couldn't help but clench his fists. His fighting spirit was burning. He really wanted to exchange blows with the gods of the God world, especially the 5 God Kings. Clenching his fists, Lu Yuan controlled the Fire Dragon King to slowly descend. His figure moved, and he arrived in front of the Snow Emperor and the others. The moment Lu Yuan arrived, he welcomed the bright gazes of the 3. The cold wind blew, and his long hair danced. Looking at the 3 women in front of him, Lu Yuan couldn't help but smile. He revealed a gentle smile. Chapter 1073. What's wrong? Are you stunned? Lu Yuan smiled and asked. You're really a pervert. The Ice Empress mumbled. Lu Yuan was standing in front of her now, and he didn't release any of his aura, but she was already trembling. After this breakthrough, Lu Yuan's body seemed to have gained a majestic aura that couldn't be looked at directly. It was a feeling of superiority, and it made people unable to resist him. Thank you for the compliment. But why are your words still so unpleasant? You have to change, okay? Lu Yuan pinched the Ice Empress cheeks and said with a smile, it hurts. You bastard, I'll fight it out with you. The Ice Empress bared her fangs and brandished her claws as she pounced towards Lu Yuan, but she was held down by Lu Yuan and pinched her cheeks a few more times. The Ice Empress was instantly defeated by Yu Hao. Elder sister, he's bullying me again. The Ice Empress' face drooped as she pulled on the Snow Emperor's arm and complained. All right, the 2 of you stop fooling around. The Snow Emperor patted the Ice Empress' head and turned to Lu Yuan. Is that a spirit? The Snow Emperor pointed at the gigantic Fire Dragon King not far away and asked. Yes, that's a spirit. A spirit can move independently, and it has its own consciousness and physical body. Even if it's broken, as long as the Soul Master is still around, there's still a chance for it to recover. What do you think? Lu Yuan asked softly. It's very magical. The Snow Emperor nodded and said, Since you think it's okay, shall we begin? Lu Yuan said gently. Okay, The Snow Emperor agreed immediately. Chihiro Snow and the Snow Emperor sat face to face on the spacious snowy ground. Both of them were extremely beautiful, and sitting together was a beautiful sight. "I'll have to trouble you to take care of me in the future," the Snow Emperor said softly, her cold voice carrying a trace of gentleness. "You too. I hope we can get along well," Chihiro Snow said gently. The Snow Emperor smiled. Just as he was about to speak, the Ice Empress ran forward and grabbed the Snow Emperor's arm. She looked reluctant to part with him. "Sister, are you really going to become Chihiro Snow's second martial soul? I can't bear to part with you." "I can't bear to part with you either. But you don't want to see Big Sister die either, right? Big Sister really doesn't have the confidence to survive a 700,000-year heavenly tribulation." The Snow Emperor rubbed the Ice Empress' head and sighed softly. After hearing the Snow Emperor's words, the Ice Empress fell silent. She pouted and walked to the side. Her green eyes flickered, and there was a conflicted expression on her face. She seemed to be thinking about something. At this moment, Lu Yuan walked up and asked, "Is everything ready?" "Yes." Chihiro Snow and the Snow Emperor nodded at the same time. "All right, share. Activate your Een origin." Snow Emperor, "I'll have to trouble you to control your energy later. This isn't a sacrifice, so there will be some problems. You're too old. If you don't control it, Cher won't be able to bear it," Lu Yuan said plainly. "I understand. I'll try my best to control it so that she can absorb all the energy perfectly," the Snow Emperor said. "Okay, I'll help you during this period." Lu Yuan nodded and said. Spirits and sacrifices were different. Sacrifices required one to completely sacrifice one's cultivation and soul. Sacrifices required one to give up everything. This was why soul masters could absorb the energy perfectly. On the other hand, spirits were voluntary. Therefore, soul masters had to bear a lot of pressure. It was just that they didn't have the resentful energy in their soul rings. However, the Snow Emperor's 690,000 years of cultivation wasn't something that Chihiro Snow could bear. Therefore, the Snow Emperor had to control her own energy and inject it bit by bit. She couldn't let Chihiro Snow explode. Ordinary soul beasts couldn't do this. However, the Snow Emperor was different. Her spiritual power was very strong, and she could control her own energy well, just like the Sky Dream Iceworm. Next was the Spirit Technique. The Spirit Technique could allow one spirit to provide several soul rings. This was why the energy in the Snow Emperor's soul ring could be split into several portions and condensed into soul rings in batches. One soul ring would be condensed at a time, and the pressure would be reduced. With Lu Yuan's help, things became much simpler. Seeing that the two of them were ready, Lu Yuan waved his right hand, and a magic array enveloped their bodies. Golden light gathered and formed a contract. Both parties were willing, and the contract was completed. It turned into two streaks of golden light and sank into their foreheads. The Snow Emperor's body started to burn with icy blue flames. An icy blue domain also emerged from Chihiro Snow's body and exuded a special icy aura. The Snow Emperor's body trembled, and an illusory figure emerged from the Snow Emperor's body. It directly entered Chihiro Snow's body. Within Chihiro Snow's body, the origin of Een was quickly formed. Chihiro Snow's body was filled with dazzling icy blue light. Finally, at a certain moment, the icy blue light on Chihiro Snow's body shone brightly. The Snow Emperor's figure suddenly appeared behind Chihiro Snow. An icy blue domain quickly spread from Chihiro Snow's body in all directions. Everywhere it passed was covered with a thick layer of ice. Once the martial soul was formed, the domain was born. At this moment, the Snow Emperor had completely transformed into Chihiro Snow's martial soul. After fusing with Chihiro Snow's own origin of Een, the Snow Emperor's aura became even colder. The Snow Emperor, who originally only possessed the mutated element of ultimate ice, now possessed the four elements of pure Een: ultimate ice, ultimate snow, and ultimate cold. In the ice domain, no one could compare to her. Even the Water Dragon King couldn't. Right now, the quality of the Snow Emperor's martial soul had even surpassed Chihiro Snow's first martial soul, the Eight-Winged Angel. It was infinitely close to the level of a God King martial soul. Such a martial soul undoubtedly possessed an innate domain. The Snow Emperor's original domain was called the Snowy Dance of the Brilliant Sun. However, after fusing with Chihiro Snow's Origin of Een, it had already undergone a change. This new domain was extremely powerful. Apart from his own Golden Dragon domain, this was the first time that Lu Yuan had seen such a high-level domain with boundless potential. A look of astonishment flashed across Lu Yuan's eyes. However, he did not stop what he was doing. He gently pointed at the Snow Empress' remaining body, and it instantly shattered. It turned into the purest form of energy and surged into Qian Rinchue's martial soul. The Snow Emperor was an ice spirit born from heaven and earth. Her body was the purest ice and snow energy. As this energy surged into her martial soul, Chihiro Snow's body started to tremble. The terrifying energy started to invade her body. She couldn't take it anymore. Noticing this situation, Lu Yuan and the Snow Emperor started to act at the same time. They started to split up this energy and injected it into Chihiro Snow's body. Chapter 1074. Chihiro Snow had absorbed 200,000-year soul rings, and his physique was still very strong. Although he couldn't resist the invasion of the Snow Emperor's 690,000 years of cultivation, he was still able to withstand the soul rings of ordinary savage beasts. After Lu Yuan and the Snow Emperor divided and controlled this power, Chihiro Snow's body immediately regained its calmness. As the energy gathered, Chihiro Snow's aura started to become stronger. Finally, after 2 hours, the first portion of energy was completely absorbed. The first soul ring appeared on the Snow Emperor's martial soul. It was an orange-gold soul ring. The soul rings of savage beasts were orange-gold in color. After this orange-gold soul ring appeared, Chihiro Snow's aura suddenly became stronger. His physique also became stronger, and his absorption of the soul ring's energy became faster and faster. With the help of Lu Yuan and the Snow Emperor, a second orange-gold soul ring appeared. After about half a day, all the energy from the Snow Emperor had been completely absorbed by Chihiro Snow. The Snow Emperor stood silently behind Chihiro Snow, and 4 orange-gold soul rings shone brightly below her. A single Snow Emperor's spirit had provided 4 orange-gold soul rings. It had to be said that the Snow Emperor's cultivation was very strong. With 690,000 years of cultivation, she was one of the strongest on the continent. Apart from Tian and the Evil Eye Tyrant King, the Snow Emperor was next. 4 orange-gold soul rings directly increased Chihiro Snow's soul power by 5 ranks, and she reached rank 90. Obuchi, I'm at rank 90. Chihiro Snow clenched her little fist, and there was a look of excitement in her eyes. Not bad. Lu Yuan nodded with a smile in his eyes. He reached out his hand to Chihiro Snow. Chihiro Snow grabbed his hand and stood up. Snow Emperor, how do you feel? Lu Yuan looked behind Chihiro Snow and chuckled. It feels pretty good. The Snow Emperor floated out from behind Chihiro Snow and stood in front of Lu Yuan. She was both a martial soul and a spirit soul. She could possess another person, and she could also move independently. It could be said that she was a rather strange existence. Lu Yuan sized him up for a while before reaching out and gently twirling a strand of the Snow Emperor's long hair. He closed his eyes and sensed it for a while before revealing a smile. Your situation is pretty good. Cher has gained a lot of benefits, and so have you. You've fused with the Een attribute in Cher's body. How about this? When I revive you in the future, I'll give you a surprise. What surprise? The Snow Emperor couldn't help but ask. I'll tell you when the time comes. Lu Yuan smiled and let go of the strand of white hair in his hand. Why are you being so mysterious? The Snow Emperor rolled her eyes at Lu Yuan. She tucked the strand of hair behind her ear, revealing her cold and intellectual temperament. Elder sister, The Ice Empress pounced forward and hugged the Snow Emperor. She felt the Snow Emperor's body, and a look of surprise flashed across her dark green eyes. It's really a physical body. This fellow isn't lying, the Ice Empress said happily. Lu Yuan's mouth twitched when he heard this. Does this woman think that I'm lying? After looking at the Ice Empress speechlessly, Lu Yuan looked at Chihiro Snow and said, "Let's continue. Absorb the Ice Bear King's spirit, too. He won't be able to hold on for much longer. Indeed, we should continue. I feel bad for Little White when I see him in so much pain." The Snow Emperor's voice rang out just as Lu Yuan finished speaking, and before Chihiro Snow could reply. "Did you hear that? Stand to the side. We're going to get down to business." Lu Yuan pulled the Ice Empress. "You dare to push me?" The Ice Empress shouted and pretended to bare her fangs and claws again. Lu Yuan raised his right hand and made a flicking motion. The Ice Empress shrank her neck and glared at Lu Yuan before retreating to the side resentfully. She had no choice. She still remembered the pain when Lu Yuan flicked his finger the last time. Lu Yuan was a little amused as he looked at the Ice Empress. Then, he turned to Chihiro Snow and the Snow Emperor. The two of them nodded at the same time and walked in front of the Ice Bear King. They waved their hands as well, and a magic array enveloped the Ice Bear King and Chihiro Snow. The spirit ceremony started again. With the experience from the previous 2 times, the third time was naturally much faster. This time, they only took 4 hours to complete everything. Qianren Xue had 2 more orange gold soul rings beneath her body. Behind her and beside the Snow Empress, there was an additional snow-white Ice Bear King, Little Bai, who looked very simple-minded. After absorbing Little White's soul rings, Chihiro Snow's soul power increased once again. It was just that she had reached a bottleneck and didn't have any soul rings, so her soul power had accumulated. However, as long as she had her 9th soul ring, this portion of her soul rings would be revealed again. Seeing that the Snow Emperor and the Ice Bear King had turned into spirits, the Ice Empress rolled her eyes. She moved her feet and walked in front of Lu Yuan. She lifted her head and looked at him arrogantly. "What do you want now?" Lu Yuan was a little speechless as he looked at her. The more he interacted with her, the more he realized that the Ice Empress had a rather arrogant personality under her strong appearance. She gave him the feeling that she was an immature and arrogant little lowly. Of course, no one else could understand the Ice Empress personality. Only Lu Yuan, the Snow Emperor, and a few others could. "I want to be a spirit too. Hurry up and help me," the Ice Empress said. She had thought it through. After all, she had already lived for 380,000 years. She would have to face her heavenly tribulations sooner or later. If she couldn't overcome it, she would die. However, being Chihiro Snow's spirit not only gave her the chance to live forever, but she could also follow the Snow Emperor. More importantly, this spirit was very special. It could even have its own physical body and consciousness. She was tempted. This was a rare opportunity. She felt that she had to take the risk. "You want to be a spirit too?" Lu Yuan laughed when he heard the Ice Empress words. "Is she offering herself to me?" "Yes, I want to be a spirit too. Hurry up and host the ceremony for me," the Ice Empress said arrogantly. "That's a good idea, but I reject it," Lu Yuan said with a smile. "I knew you would agree." "What? You reject it?" The Ice Empress was originally very confident. However, she was stunned when she heard Lu Yuan's words. "You actually rejected me?" the Ice Empress asked again in disbelief. "Yes, I reject it," Lu Yuan said with a smile. "What right do you have to reject me? I am the Ice Jade Empress Scorpion. I have cultivated for 380,000 years, and I control ultimate ice. What right do you have to reject me?" The Ice Empress said unhappily. "Because I'm happy," Lu Yuan said with a smile. "Ah, Lu Yuan, you're too much." Hearing Lu Yuan's words and seeing his nonchalant expression, the Ice Empress was completely enraged. Her little face was flushed red with anger. She opened her little mouth, waved her hands, and pounced on Lu Yuan. Chapter 1075. "Ah, you bastard, let go of me," Lu Yuan grabbed both of the Ice Emperor's hands and held them in his left hand. He gently pinched the Ice Emperor's face with his right hand and smiled faintly. However, the Ice Empress felt that this smile was very despicable. "Don't pinch my face, you bastard. Ah, it hurts. Ah, elder sister, save me." The Ice Empress glared fiercely at Lu Yuan, who was pinching her cheeks. Her little face looked pitiful as she pouted her little mouth and cried out continuously. However, she couldn't resist Lu Yuan's torture. She couldn't help but ask the Snow Emperor for help. "All right, stop teasing Ice. She's still young." The Snow Emperor floated down and took the Ice Empress from Lu Yuan as he spoke gently. "She's still young?" Lu Yuan's mouth twitched. "She's a 380,000-year Ice Jade Empress Scorpion, and you're telling me that she's still young? Although Ice is old, she's actually very innocent," the Snow Emperor said softly. "Just as innocent as you?" Lu Yuan looked at the Snow Emperor and smiled as he spoke. The Snow Empress blushed a little as she lowered her head. However, she quickly lifted her head again. There was a doubtful look in her eyes as she asked, "Why don't you let Ice be Chihiro Snow's spirit?" "I'm not praising Ice, but she's indeed the most outstanding Ice-type soul beast left." "That's right. This fellow is actually looking down on me." The Ice Empress lay in the Snow Emperor's arms and said indignantly, "It's not that I'm unwilling. It's just that the time isn't right." Lu Yuan shook his head and said, "What do you mean?" The Snow Emperor was a little confused as she asked. "It's very simple. You can't become fat in one bite. You need time to digest food. Otherwise, you'll be stuffed to death. Cher has absorbed both your spirits and the Ice Bear King's. She has 6 orange gold soul rings. She has improved tremendously. She needs time to adjust her soul power and consolidate her foundation. If the Ice Empress is added at this time, her foundation will be completely destroyed. It will seriously affect her future path," Lu Yuan said with a serious face. "That's true." The Snow Emperor couldn't help but nod. Thinking about it this way, Lu Yuan's words were quite reasonable. "Then what do you plan to do?" the Snow Emperor asked. "I'm prepared to give Cher 2 months to polish her soul power before she absorbs her 9th soul ring. When that happens, Cher's soul power will definitely increase greatly. After that, I'll spend another 2 months polishing her soul power. I'll only consider the matter of the Ice Empress after she completely controls and absorbs the soul power in her body. Cultivation still needs to be done step by step. It can't be rushed," Lu Yuan said in a deep voice. "Yes, you're very considerate. Now, that little boy has become a spirit. We're not in a hurry. We can take it slow." The Snow Emperor agreed with Lu Yuan's decision. However, she didn't understand and asked, "Then why did you lie to Bang and say that you don't want her to be your spirit?" Lu Yuan laughed and said, "Don't you think that it's fun to tease her?" The Snow Emperor was speechless. She didn't expect Lu Yuan to have such a bad taste. As for the Ice Empress, her face had turned completely black. 2 months passed in the blink of an eye. After Chihiro Snow finished polishing the soul power in his body, Lu Yuan took out another god-bestowed soul ring for Chihiro Snow to absorb. Right now, Chihiro Snow's physique was unprecedentedly strong. His god-bestowed soul ring had reached over 500,000 years. This increase in soul power, along with the soul power that he had accumulated previously, allowed Chihiro Snow's soul power to reach rank 96. He surpassed Lu Yuan once again. With such a huge increase in soul power, it was inevitable that his soul power would become unstable. Chihiro Snow started a new round of polishing his soul power. Outside the Snow Emperor's igloo, Lu Yuan was sitting on a long ice stool. He was looking at the 2 soul bones in his hands in a daze. One of the 2 soul bones was a skull, while the other was a right arm bone. The right arm bone was a soul bone dropped by the Ice Bear King, while the skull was a soul bone dropped by the Snow Emperor. Both soul bones were extremely complete and exuded dense energy undulations. In terms of quality, the Snow Emperor's skull was undoubtedly of higher quality. A 690,000-year skull. Apart from the Tao Ye skull that Lu Yuan had previously obtained, This skull was of the highest quality among all the skulls that he had. Right now, Nana, Zhu Qing, and Rong Rong all have skulls. Hence, they don't need the Snow Emperor's skull. However, this right arm bone is very useful. They can all use it. Lu Yuan laughed. He waved his right hand, and another 4 soul bones appeared. These 4 soul bones were all of the 100,000-year level. There was a left arm bone, a right arm bone, a left leg bone, and a right leg bone. These 4 soul bones were obtained from the Wasp Empress, Poison Empress, Green Empress, and White Empress. The Wasp Empress and Poison Empress each had 4 soul bones. The Green Empress and White Empress were both full of soul bones. These were the only 4 soul bones that Lu Yuan was interested in addition to the 100,000-year right leg bone that he obtained from killing the blood-colored 9-headed Bat King. Lu Yuan now had 700,000-year soul bones. This number was a little scary. With this, I can basically gather all of Nana, Zhu Qing, and Rong Rong's soul bones. Even if I'm short, I won't be short of 2. As he looked at the soul bones in his hand, Lu Yuan revealed a slight smile on his face. So many 100,000-year soul bones. A clear and pleasant voice rang out beside Lu Yuan's ear. The Snow Emperor's figure was reflected in Lu Yuan's eyes. "Sit," Lu Yuan said gently as he pointed to the ice stool beside him. "Okay." The Snow Emperor nodded gently and sat down beside Lu Yuan. Chihiro Snow was polishing his soul power, while the Snow Emperor was moving freely outside his body. "Where did you get so many soul bones?" "Yes, other than the 2 that Little Bai and I have, the other 4 must have been obtained from those evil soul masters." The Snow Emperor stroked the hair on her forehead and smiled as she spoke. "You're indeed very smart." Lu Yuan looked at the Snow Emperor and said with a smile. After being praised by Lu Yuan, the Snow Emperor was a little embarrassed. She pointed to the skull that was emitting an icy blue light and asked, "Why don't you absorb my skull? I believe it will be of some help to you." The Snow Emperor said softly, "I didn't think of it at the moment. I'll absorb it later." Lu Yuan replied warmly. The Snow Emperor nodded slightly. Snowflakes danced in the sky. She raised her hand to catch a snowflake. The sparkling snowflake appeared exceptionally pure and translucent in her snow-white hands. The Snow Emperor's expression was tranquil, and she exuded a cool aura. Amidst this cool aura, there was an intellectual temperament, which made her appear exceptionally charming. Seeing the Snow Emperor like this, Lu Yuan couldn't help but pause for a moment. A look of astonishment flashed across his eyes. The Snow Emperor's beauty had reached a level that made people gasp in admiration. After taking a few glances, Lu Yuan retracted his gaze and kept the soul bones in his hands. He only left the skull behind. It was a snow-white skull that was emitting an icy blue light. Chapter 1076. The Taoyi's skull possessed the ability to devour, and could devour other skulls to strengthen itself. The 690,000-year-old skull from the Snow Emperor was undoubtedly a very good choice for Hui Yuhao to devour. It wasn't too weak, it wasn't God-ranked either. It wasn't very strenuous to devour it, and Hui Yuhao could obtain many benefits from it. Lu Yuan's eyes blinked slightly as he weighed the skull in his hand. Just like Chihiro Snow, he had been polishing his soul power over the past 2 months. He had higher requirements for himself than Chihiro Snow. Chihiro Snow only needed to control all of his soul power, and it wouldn't affect his foundation. However, Hui Yuhao wanted to be able to control every strand of soul power as he wished. He wanted to be able to control everything as he wished. Therefore, he also needed to polish his soul power. Fortunately, his spiritual power was much higher than Chihiro Snow's, and he had already reached a deeper level in the God realm. Therefore, he had complete control over the soul power in his body after spending 2 months. At this point, he could continue to improve without worry. He still had the Snow Emperor's skull and the Darkness Dragon King's right thigh bone to absorb. These 2 soul bones should be able to increase his strength by another level. Lu Yuan sat cross-legged on an ice platform in a world of ice and snow. He was even holding a snow-white skull in his hand. The skull exuded a dense chill. This was a skull that contained the ultimate ice element. Not everyone could absorb a skull like this. Only those who could also control ultimate ice could absorb it. Lu Yuan was undoubtedly such an existence. He placed the skull on his head and circulated his soul power. The snow-white skull turned into a stream of snow-white liquid. After that, entered Lu Yuan's mind. In Lu Yuan's mind, the Taoye's skull trembled and released a huge suction force. It completely devoured the Snow Emperor's skull's energy into the Taoye's skull. Lu Yuan only felt a cold feeling assaulting him. Then his mind buzzed. The Taotai skull had started digesting the power of the Snow Emperor's skull. After devouring the Snow Emperor's skull, the Taoye's skull also began to slowly strengthen. From time to time, it would also spit out some energy back to Lu Yuan. Lu Yuan's eyes were tightly shut as he focused on absorbing the energy in his mind. Not far away, the Snow Emperor rested her chin on her hand as she looked at him with a gentle expression. It was much easier to absorb a soul bone than a soul ring. After about an hour, Lu Yuan opened his eyes. The energy of the Snow Emperor's skull had been completely devoured, and the quality of the Taoye's skull had increased by a lot. Lu Yuan blinked and smiled at the Snow Emperor. After that, he took out the Darkness Dragon King's right thigh bone and continued to absorb it. Compared to the Snow Emperor's skull, the Darkness Dragon King's right thigh bone was the highlight. After absorbing it, Lu Yuan was only left with his torso bone. His soul bones would be complete. After placing the Darkness Dragon King's right thigh bone on his right leg, Lu Yuan started a new round of absorption. This time, he spent a total of 3 hours before he finished absorbing the Darkness Dragon King's right thigh bone. Lu Yuan's rank also reached the pinnacle of rank 96. He was only a step away from becoming a rank 97 transcendent Douluo. After absorbing the Darkness Dragon King's right thigh bone, Lu Yuan continued to cultivate. He comprehended the Azura's inheritance and the Great Meru Hammer's ultimate profundity. These things were very important to him. Firstly, they were very helpful in comprehending the clear air divine seed. Secondly, they were divine skills that could increase his fighting strength. Both of them required a lot of effort. Another 2 months passed in the blink of an eye as he continued to cultivate like this. Lu Yuan and Chihiro Snow were standing in a spacious snowy area. The Ice Empress was standing beside Lu Yuan. "Bastard, help me. I want to be your spirit." The Ice Empress placed her hands on her hips and said to Lu Yuan coquettishly, "Oh, are you itching for a beating again? How dare you speak to me like that?" Lu Yuan snapped his fingers and said with a half-smile. The Ice Empress shrunk her neck and whispered, "Violent maniac, you only know how to fight." "I'm a violent maniac?" Lu Yuan laughed and said to the Ice Empress, "I wonder who's the one who's acting like a lunatic when she's angry. She's already so old, and you still think you're a little girl? I advise you to respect yourself." Ice Empress. How dare you call me old?" The Ice Empress' eyes widened as she glared at Lu Yuan. No one was willing to be called old, not even soul beasts. Furthermore, the Ice Empress was very beautiful and young. She didn't like it when others called her old. "Aren't you old?" "I'm not old." "No, you're very old." "Nonsense. I'm not old at all. Just admit it if you're old. No one's discriminating against you." "Haha, I'm not old at all. Why should I admit it? You've already lived for hundreds of thousands of years, and yet you say you're not old." Sigh, beasts nowadays are getting more and more shameless, especially a certain scorpion. How dare you insult me? I'll bite you to death." The two of them started fighting. Chihiro Snow and the Snow Emperor shook their heads as they watched. This pair of clowns. After messing around for a while, the Ice Empress ended with 2 flicks of her fingers. Her little face drooped, and she had a dejected look on her face. She pouted her little mouth, and there was a hint of resentment in her eyes as she looked at the Snow Empress. "Elder sister, you're not helping me," the Ice Empress said pitifully. "How can Elder sister help you? Even I can't beat him." The Snow Emperor couldn't help but laugh as he looked at the Ice Empress' pitiful appearance. It's all excuses. Elder sister, you don't love me anymore. Elder sister doesn't love Bing anymore. The Ice Empress snorted and said. The Snow Emperor smiled bitterly when he heard this. Sometimes the Ice Empress was so innocent that she was a little cute. All right, let's begin, Lu Yuan said gently. The Snow Emperor and Chihiro Snow nodded. Chihiro Snow found a place to sit cross-legged, while the Snow Emperor floated behind him. The 6 orange gold soul rings on his body shone brightly. Why aren't you going over? Lu Yuan patted the Ice Empress' head. The Ice Empress glared at Lu Yuan. After that, she snorted and returned to her original form. She crawled to the opposite side of Chihiro Snow. Lu Yuan waved his hand, and a golden magic array appeared beneath the two of them. After that, they signed a contract. The Ice Empress transformed into a spirit. With his previous experience, the entire process was very smooth this time. In just half a day, the entire ceremony was completed. Another spirit appeared behind Chihiro Snow. It was the Ice Jade Empress Scorpion. With the Snow Emperor in the lead, the 3 spirits floated quietly behind Chihiro Snow. Chihiro Snow's 9 orange gold soul rings shone brightly. Chihiro Snow's soul power increased by 2 ranks after receiving the Ice Emperor sacrifice. He was now a rank 98 peak level Douluo. In terms of fighting strength, Chihiro Snow was comparable to an ultimate Douluo. He could even defeat one. Chapter 1077. Chihiro Snow had twin martial souls, and she possessed 2 martial souls that surpassed God-tier martial souls. Furthermore, both of her martial souls were equipped with soul rings. She had 9 orange gold soul rings and 300,000-year soul rings. Among them, her 9th soul ring was at least 500,000 year. Chihiro Snow's abilities couldn't be measured by the standards of a pinnacle Douluo. Her abilities had to be far beyond that. Even an ultimate Douluo shouldn't be a match for her. In fact, she might even be able to defeat a demigod with her angelic holy sword. Right now, she wasn't as strong as BB Dawn, who was at the semi-divinity realm. However, it would be very difficult for BB Dawn to defeat her so easily. Chihiro Snow stood in the air, and a bone-chilling aura emanated from her body. As her aura erupted, a wave of biting cold surged towards everyone. Right now, Chihiro Snow's mastery of ice was so high that even Lu Yuan was inferior to her. With the origin of the pure, divine embryo, along with the help of the Snow Emperor, the Ice Empress, and the Ice Bear King, Chihiro Snow's ice-type abilities had already surpassed the ultimate Douluo level. She was about the same level as the Ice Dragon King back then. Even though Lu Yuan had absorbed the Ice Dragon King's soul ring, he wasn't the Ice Dragon King. His control of ice was still at the level of ultimate ice. Hence, he was still a little lacking in this aspect. Qian Rinxue, who had been possessed by the Snow Empress, looked different from her usual self. Her golden hair had turned icy blue, and her golden eyes were icy blue. Coupled with her snow-white dress, Qian Rinxue appeared exceptionally cold, pure, and flawless at this moment. Chihiro Snow really had a different aura now. Lu Yuan stepped into the air and walked towards Chihiro Snow. The cold wind blew her hair, and her clothes fluttered. She looked exceptionally enchanting. Behind Chihiro Snow, a jade-green scorpion tail swayed in the air. It was beautiful and powerful. This was the Ice Empress scorpion tail, an external soul bone. 100,000-year soul beast could choose the part of its body that produced its soul bone. The Ice Empress originally produced a torso bone, but Chihiro Snow already had one. Lu Yuan lacked one, but the Ice Empress torso bone was too young, so Lu Yuan didn't want it. Furthermore, the Ice Empress soul bone could only be absorbed by someone who possessed ultimate ice. Hence, due to all these factors, the torso bone that was produced turned into the Ice Emperor Scorpion tail. This was how Chihiro Snow obtained his first external soul bone. To be honest, the Scorpion tail was a soul bone that could evolve and was much more precious than the torso bone. After Chihiro Snow gathered all the soul rings, Her 8th test was completely completed. As for Lu Yuan, because his holy sword brand was broken, he naturally lost his reward. However, he didn't really care about those rewards. Have you completed the 8th test? Lu Yuan asked gently as he caressed Chihiro Snow's face. Yes, I've completed it. As I completed the task ahead of time, I was rewarded with an increase of 20 angel affinity. Right now, my angel affinity has reached 115%. Chihiro Snow smiled as she spoke. Not bad. You're very impressive. Your 9th test was very easy. Lu Yuan smiled faintly. With such a high angel affinity, the 9th test couldn't be too difficult. Becoming the god of angels was already a certainty. Has the 9th test been announced? Lu Yuan asked. Yes, but there's a time limit of 3 years. Chihiro Snow replied. Okay. Lu Yuan nodded slightly and instructed, don't be in a hurry to take the 9th test. Within 3 years, you must increase your soul power to that of an ultimate Douluo before taking the 9th test. The stronger you are before becoming a god, the stronger your foundation will be after becoming a god. Don't be greedy. Take the 9th test now. Although you can still successfully become a god, your combat power will be much weaker. Lu Yuan thought of Chihiro Snow in the original work. It was because she didn't cultivate to the extreme before becoming a god, and because of the flaw in her soul that she lost to Tang San in the Battle of the Gods. Otherwise, her angel god would be able to compete with Tang San Sea God. In the god realm, the original sea god was naturally stronger than the angel god. After all, he had the help of the super divine weapon, Sea God's Trident. However, for those who had just inherited the godhood, they could at most display the strength of a 3rd-rank god. For a mere 3rd-rank god, if you gave him a super divine weapon or a master god weapon, it would be about the same. He wouldn't be able to display the full power of the super divine weapon. Super divine weapons were powerful, but only 1st-rank gods could fully display their full power. 3rd-rank gods were far from enough, and the power they could display was extremely small. Although Master God weapons were 1 tier lower than Super Divine weapons, the requirements for use were lower. 3rd-rank gods could display more power. Therefore, for a 3rd-rank god, there wasn't much difference between a Super Divine weapon and a Master God weapon. If the original Chihiro Snow could cultivate to the extreme before becoming a god, her strength wouldn't be inferior to Tang San's. There was a very strong evidence, and that was BB Dawn. Her Rakshasa god was also a 1st-rank god. After becoming a god, she used the Rakshasa demon scythe, which was also a 1st-rank divine weapon, which was also a master god weapon. However, she was able to suppress Tang San in the beginning. Even though Tang San had Sea God's Trident, it couldn't change the outcome of the battle. This was because BB Dawn had accumulated a lot of power before becoming a god. That was why she was so strong after becoming a god. Chihiro Snow naturally believed Lu Yuan's words, so she agreed immediately. Moreover, unlike in the original work, where she was in a hurry to become a god, the Martial Soul Palace was now as stable as Mount Tai with Lu Yuan. The continent had been unified, so she could cultivate slowly. She could take the 9th test after becoming an ultimate Douluo. She would lay the most solid foundation for becoming a god. By the way, Schwerer, after we return this time, you should spend more time with your grandfather. Lu Yuan's mind flashed as he recalled something. He could not help but say to Qianren Xue, spend more time with my grandfather? Chihiro Snow was a little puzzled, but she still nodded. As Sindoria's only granddaughter, she should spend more time with him. Obuchi, if you have nothing to do, you should spend more time with my grandfather. He's quite lonely by himself. Chihiro Snow said gently. Me? Then forget it. I don't like him, and he doesn't like me either. What's the point of looking at each other with hatred? It's better not to go. Lu Yuan shook his head and said. Hearing this, Chihiro Snow sighed softly and didn't force Lu Yuan anymore. She also knew that Lu Yuan and Sendoryu really didn't get along. All right, stop sighing. Let's go back. We've been out for a long time, Lu Yuan said softly. It had been more than 4 months since they came out. In such a long time, the continent must have been in turmoil. Seeing Chihiro Snow nod in agreement, Lu Yuan held her waist with one hand and waved his right hand. A spatial crack appeared, and Lu Yuan and Chihiro Snow's figures directly disappeared into it. Chapter 1078. The Pope's Palace. After sending off Chihiro Snow, Lu Yuan went directly to the Pope's palace. It was still early, so Bibi Don must be handling government affairs here. In the side hall, Bibi Don was reading documents seriously and reading them carefully. She was still wearing a gorgeous robe, but the pattern of this robe was very different from the previous Pope's robes. However, it still fit her perfectly, making her look noble and graceful. Lu Yuan's figure appeared in the side hall out of thin air. He looked at Bibi Don with shining eyes. After not seeing her for a few months, this woman had become even more enchanting. As if disturbed by Lu Yuan's burning gaze, Bibi Don raised her head. When she saw Lu Yuan's figure, her pair of beautiful pink eyes suddenly lit up, and a gentle smile appeared at the corner of her mouth. "You're back." Bibi Don looked at Lu Yuan with a smile. Her voice was gentle and pleasant. "I just came back. Looking at you, you've already become an emperor?" Lu Yuan looked at Bibidon's robe and asked softly, You can tell." Bibi Don stood up, turned around slightly, and showed off her figure. "Am I beautiful?" "Of course, you're beautiful. This robe suits you very well," Lu Yuan exclaimed in admiration. Then he walked forward and wrapped his arms around Bibi Dong's waist, looking at her with a burning gaze. "Dong-er, I've missed you." Lu Yuan stared at Bibidon's eyes and said emotionally, "I missed you too, Obuchi." Bibi Don touched Lu Yuan's face and said softly. Lu Yuan smiled faintly, bent down slightly, and kissed Bibidon's delicate red lips and began to attack. Bibi Don also hugged Lu Yuan's neck tightly and responded passionately. After not seeing each other for more than 4 months, tenderness filled the air between the two of them. Lu Yuan lifted Bibi Don into the air and attacked to his heart's content. After 15 minutes, he finally let go of her. Bibidon's breathing was a little hurried, but her eyes were burning with passion. Lu Yuan sat down on a stool, hugged Bibi Don, and placed her on his lap. He looked at her lovingly. "Tell me what happened in the Martial Soul Palace during the months I was away," Lu Yuan said with a smile as he gently stroked Bibidon's tender face. Bibi Don grabbed Lu Yuan's hand, which was on her face, and looked at him with a gentle gaze. She said softly, "Nothing major happened. The Martial Soul Empire was established, and the entire continent was unified. A complete regime was established. Also, the name of the original Academic Emperor's Palace was changed. The Academic Emperor's Palace was changed to the Sacred Emperor's Palace, and I was the first Sacred Emperor." "Sacred Emperor?" "Had this name." Lu Yuan couldn't help but reveal a strange smile. "What's wrong with this name? Isn't it much better than the Emperor?" Bibi Don sniffled and said, "As long as you think it's good." Lu Yuan kissed Bibi Don and laughed softly. "Oomph." Bibi Don snorted and glanced at Lu Yuan with her beautiful eyes. She bit Lu Yuan's lips hard in return. Lu Yuan looked at Bibi Don with a hint of mockery in his eyes. "Then should I call you Your Majesty, Sacred Emperor now? You should have called me that long ago." Bibi Don raised her snow-white neck and said arrogantly, "Hurry up and pay your respects to this Sacred Emperor." "Oh, I gave you some face, and you're still trying to diet. Sacred Emperor, I want to see how much you've improved after not seeing you for a few months." As Lu Yuan spoke, he looked all the way down with a strange look in his eyes. "You pervert, Ugg." Bibi Don just scolded him when the space suddenly split open, and 2 figures directly entered it. 2 people suddenly fell out of Bibidon's room on the Lake Heart Island, and then there was an indescribable feeling. The sky gradually darkened, and half a day passed quietly. "Little bastard, you're getting more and more overboard." Bibi Don bit Lu Yuan's ear with a hint of rebuke in her eyes. "But I see that you're very happy." Lu Yuan hugged Bibidon's snow-white body, and the corners of his mouth curled up slightly. "Bah, I'm not." Bibidine's beautiful face turned red as she flatly denied. Oh, is that so? Lu Yuan stared at Bibi Don with a smile in his eyes. Unable to withstand Lu Yuan's teasing gaze, Bibi Don directly lay down and hid her little head on Lu Yuan's chest. Lu Yuan smiled and turned slightly, hugging Bibi Don in his arms. Kissing her red lips, Lu Yuan said softly, "Dong Air, let's get married." Huh? Hearing this, Bibi Don was stunned for a moment, and a touch of surprise flashed across her eyes. I've told Cher that everything will be under your control in the future, and the position of the main wife will be given to you. Lu Yuan said lightly. Really? Bibidine's eyes suddenly lit up, blooming with a bright light. Really? Lu Yuan nodded and said, Yeah, Obuchi, you're so nice. Bibi Don excitedly moved forward, and her red lips quickly pressed on Lu Yuan's lips. Lu Yuan was stunned, and then he pressed Bibidine's head, turned over slightly, and another battle began. The two of them finally met with rain after a long drought, and the battle was really intense. It was not until the next morning that the two of them walked out of Bibidine's room hand in hand. Although they did not sleep for the whole night, the two of them were extraordinarily energetic. Bibidine's beautiful face was rosy, and her whole body was glowing, which was particularly charming. After advancing to the false god realm, Bibi Don was a lot stronger. She was not as powerful as she was now. Hungry? Looking at Bibi Don, Lu Yuan asked softly. And so hungry. Bibi Don touched her little belly and said coquettishly, Then have some breakfast, Lu Yuan said with a smile. In. Bibi Don nodded her little head. The two of them ate breakfast intimately. Looking at Bibidine's charming face full of smiles, Lu Yuan's heart was filled with satisfaction. It was really good to be able to meet her in this life. She really gave Lu Yuan all the dreams of girlfriend. Naughty, cute, lively, elegant, graceful, gentle, and intellectual, this woman was all of them. Moreover, whether it was her figure, appearance, or temperament, this woman was the best. Dong Air. Lu Yuan suddenly hugged Bibi Don. What's the matter, Obuchi? Bibi Don looked at Lu Yuan strangely. I love you. Lu Yuan looked at Bibi Don with sincere eyes and said seriously. Although he liked to say sweet words, it was very rare for him to say I love you so seriously. In his impression, he seemed to have only said this to Chihiro Snow, and now he wanted to say this to Bibi Don. I love you too, Obuchi. Bibi Don smiled gently, looked into Lu Yuan's eyes, and said softly. Chapter 1079. The Sacred Emperor's Palace. Bibi Don sat high up on the throne, holding a purple gold scepter in her hand. Lu Yuan stood beside her, looking at her gently. Below the Sacred Emperor's Palace were the elders, consecrators, and other higher-ups of the Martial Soul Palace. The Martial Soul Empire had just been established, and many departments had been set up. Some of the newly promoted people were people that even Lu Yuan had never seen before. Of course, this wasn't important. Lu Yuan had never seen them before, but they had all heard of Lu Yuan's legend. I've gathered everyone here today to announce two things. Bibi Don held the scepter, looking at the people below with a dignified gaze. Under Bibidine's gaze, all of them lowered their heads, not daring to look directly at Bibi Don. After breaking through to the false god realm, and without the influence of the Rakshasa god's inheritance, Bibi Don could now unleash her full strength. She sat there, releasing her aura. To these elders and consecrators, it was like a towering mountain was pressing down on them, causing them to hold their breaths. First, I'm preparing to abdicate and pass the position of Sacred Emperor to the Holy Son, Lu Yuan. Do you have any objections? Bibidine's tone carried a faint trace of dignity. Everyone looked at each other and said in unison, We have no objections. This was actually very obvious. Although Bibi Don was the Sacred Emperor now, Lu Yuan's prestige was not inferior to hers. Moreover, the higher-ups all knew that Lu Yuan was the Martial Soul Empire's #1 expert. As long as their brains weren't damaged, no one dared to have any objections. BB Dawn smiled when she heard everyone's words. She was very satisfied with their performance. After looking around, BB Dawn continued, "The second thing I'm going to announce is the marriage between me and the Holy Sun. On the day the Holy Sun ascends to the throne, the marriage with me will be held at the same time. I'll be the new Empress. I'm here to inform all of you of this. Do you have any objections?" This sentence was clearly more explosive than the first thing. Although Lu Yuan and BB Dawn had announced their relationship to the world before, it was a direct marriage. However, announcing a relationship and getting married directly were not comparable at all. Moreover, BB Dawn wanted to be Lu Yuan's empress, and it was obvious that some people did not agree. The golden crocodile took 2 steps forward, bowed, and said, "I have something to report." Seeing the golden crocodile appear, Bibidin's beautiful face sank. She said in a deep voice, "Golden crocodile, please speak." The golden crocodile bowed and said, "I have no objections to the marriage between the Holy Emperor and the new Emperor. However, I feel that the Holy Maiden Chihiro Snow is more suitable for the new Empress." BB Dawn couldn't help but tighten her grip on the scepter. She knew that the golden crocodile hadn't been very supportive of her relationship with Lu Yuan, but she didn't expect him to make things difficult for her in public. This made her angry. "Oh, then does the golden crocodile think that I'm not worthy of the position of Empress?" BB Dawn narrowed her eyes and said indifferently, "I don't mean that. I just feel that the Holy Sun and the Holy Maiden have known each other since young and have a deep relationship. Moreover, the Holy Maiden has peerless talent and has a chance of reaching the godly realm. She's more suitable for the position of Empress." The golden crocodile said, "Has a chance of reaching the godly realm." Bibidin's eyes flickered. She naturally knew that Chihiro Snow had completed the 8th test and was about to enter the 9th test. However, she had lost her Rakshasa inheritance and was still far from becoming a god. So, was the golden crocodile using this to threaten her? The anger in Bibidin's heart gradually rose. Seeing that Bibidin's mood wasn't right, Lu Yuan grabbed her hand and shook his head slightly. "Leave it to me," Lu Yuan transmitted. BB Dawn nodded imperceptibly. The anger in her eyes subsided a little. She believed in Lu Yuan's methods. Lu Yuan took 2 steps forward and looked directly at the golden crocodile. The golden crocodile wasn't afraid at all. He looked at Lu Yuan with a trace of anger in his eyes. He had always thought that Chihiro Snow would be Lu Yuan's empress. He didn't expect that it would be BB Dawn in the end. Lu Yuan looked at the golden crocodile, then looked around and said indifferently, "Other than the golden crocodile, who else is against this matter? Step forward." Hearing Lu Yuan's words, the rest of the people shrank their heads and didn't answer. Looking at Lu Yuan's sharp eyes, they didn't dare to say anything. That would be courting death. It seems that no one has any objections. "Very well, then this matter is settled." Lu Yuan said indifferently. "Your Highness, this old subject is still here," said the golden crocodile. Lu Yuan turned to look at the golden alligator Douluo, and a complicated look flashed across his eyes. He really didn't want to clash with the golden alligator Douluo, but he couldn't do anything about it. Lu Yuan's eyes flickered as he looked directly at the golden crocodile and said, "I have heard the golden crocodile's words, but I feel that the current sage emperor is more suitable for the position of empress. The empress is the master of the harem and the mother of the world. In terms of qualifications and means, honestly speaking, does the golden crocodile think that the current sage emperor or saintess Chihiro Snow is more powerful? This old subject thinks that they are evenly matched." The golden crocodile started to lie through his teeth. In this aspect, BB Dawn was definitely more powerful. However, he firmly supported Chihiro Snow's ascension. So how could he say that BB Dawn was more powerful? Lu Yuan smiled and gave the chrysanthemum Douluo a look. As a number 1 lackey, the chrysanthemum Douluo's ability to read people's expressions was extraordinary. He immediately stood out. "Golden crocodile, you are wrong. This old subject thinks that the current sage emperor has created an unprecedented feat and unified the entire continent. The martial soul palace has also been developed to the peak under the Sage Emperor's leadership. In terms of means, and bearing, no one can compare to the Sage Emperor. Saintess Chihiro Snow is also extraordinary, but she is still young, and her means are a little immature. It is inevitable that she will not be able to convince everyone. This old subject thinks that the new Sage Emperor should be the Empress. The chrysanthemum Douluo said loudly. This old subject agrees. Douluo stood out and said, Saintess Chihiro Snow's means are also extraordinary, but there is still a gap between her and the Sage Emperor. Furthermore, the Sage Emperor's status is extremely noble. Even if he abdicates, he will only be below the new Sage Emperor. How can the Saintess suppress him? This is not appropriate. This old subject agrees. This old subject also agrees. With the chrysanthemum Douluo and Douluo taking the lead, the remaining titled Douluo elders of the Martial Soul Palace, as well as those who had been promoted by BB Don, all agreed. They were not fools. Whether they supported the current Sage Emperor BB Don or the next Sage Emperor, Lu Yuan, or the Golden Crocodile, it was very easy for them to make a choice. All of you. The Golden Crocodile was furious at the sight of this group of people expressing their loyalty. He knew that this group of people was spineless, but he didn't expect them to be so spineless. They were actually convinced by Lu Yuan so easily. The Golden Crocodile couldn't help but sigh deeply. Chapter 1080. Looking at the people below, Lu Yuan and Bibi Dong looked at each other, and the corners of their mouths revealed a smile at the same time. It seems like everyone supports His Majesty the Sage Emperor succeeding the position of Empress. Very good, this matter is decided. Lu Yuan gave the final word and settled the matter. The Golden Crocodile glared at Lu Yuan and sighed helplessly. His strength alone could not compare to so many people. Most importantly, as the most powerful person in the Martial Soul Palace, Lu Yuan also approved of BB Don. This left the Golden Crocodile even more helpless. After all, no one in the Martial Soul Palace dared to oppose Lu Yuan's decisions. His Highness the Holy Sun is wise. Everyone praised. After the meeting, Lu Yuan and BB Don walked hand in hand toward the island in the center of the lake. When they turned a corner, the Golden Crocodile blocked their path. Greetings to His Majesty the Sage Emperor. The Golden Crocodile bowed. BB Dong furrowed her brow slightly as she looked at the golden alligator Douluo with her pink eyes. There was a faint sense of pressure in her eyes as she said, Consecrated golden alligator, why are you blocking my way? Replying to the Sage Emperor, this old subject wishes to have a chat with His Highness the Holy Sun, the Golden Crocodile said. Oh, BB Don looked at Lu Yuan. Lu Yuan blinked and his eyes flickered. Then he gently squeezed Bibidon's hand and said, Dong Air, wait for me. I'll be back soon. Go on, BB Don said gently. Lu Yuan and the Golden Crocodile walked a long distance before stopping. BB Don was watching them from not too far away. Old thing, you have a lot of problems. BB Don clenched her scepter, a hint of dissatisfaction flashing through her eyes. BB Don naturally remembered the Golden Crocodile's attempt to stop her from ascending the throne. The Golden Crocodile was the only person in the imperial court who dared to oppose her. Relying on your good relationship with Obuchi to take advantage of your seniority? BB Don softly muttered. In truth, she had been unhappy with the Golden Crocodile for a long time. The Golden Crocodile was a Sendoryu, the most loyal follower of the angel bloodline. Their relationship had never been good, and BB Don had never been able to command him. If not for her good relationship with Lu Yuan and Lu Yuan's existence, BB Don would never have allowed the Golden Crocodile to go against her without taking any measures. After all, her methods had always been quite fierce. Fortunately, Obuchi has always been on my side. Looking at Lu Yuan's tall figure not too far away, Bibidon's eyes flashed with happiness. Her eyes were full of passionate affection. Grandpa Golden Crocodile, you can say whatever you want. On the other side, looking at the Golden Crocodile opposite, Lu Yuan said lightly, The golden crocodile stared at Lu Yuan with a trace of questioning in his tone. Why did you make BB Dawn the main harem? What did Cher do wrong? Cher didn't do anything wrong. It's just that her methods and bearing are not enough. Dong Er is more suitable for the position of the harem master than her. I didn't make this decision on the spur of the moment. This is a decision I made after careful consideration. Lu Yuan said in a flat tone. Careful consideration? Obuchi, I find that you have become more and more unrecognizable to me. Cher is deeply in love with you. She is your childhood sweetheart, and she is your first love. How can you be so cruel to her? Has your conscience been eaten by a dog? Do you still remember what you said at the beginning? You said that you would love Cher for the rest of your life. Is this how you love her? The golden crocodile asked in an emotional tone. My love for Cher has never changed. Do you know how many times I have compromised for her? Do you know how much I have sacrificed for her? Of course, as a man, this is what I should do. What I want to say is that my love for Cher has nothing to do with whether she is the main harem or not. Even if she is not the main harem, I still love her. I've given Cher this position from the very beginning, and I've always been biased towards her. However, although she has some tricks up her sleeves, she's not as good as I expected. Now that someone more suitable for this position has appeared, I have no choice but to make this decision for the sake of my harem's harmony and stability. This is a decision I made in desperation. It's not that I don't love her. I hope you don't think too much about it. Lu Yuan said indifferently. Huh. After listening to Lu Yuan's words, the golden crocodile sneered and said, It doesn't matter what you say. This old man only knows that there's always a first come, first served rule. First come, first served? Dong Er and I met 26 years ago and fell in love. At that time, Cher was not even born yet. Are you sure you want to talk about first come, first served? Lu Yuan said with a smile. The golden crocodile was speechless for a moment. If there was a first come, first served rule, BB Dawn was definitely the first. All right, you don't have to persuade her anymore. Go back and recuperate. You're already so old. Don't worry about other people's matters. I've already told Cher about this matter, and she has already accepted it. By the way, you don't have to interfere in my private affairs in the future. I am in charge of my harem. I don't want anyone to tell me what to do in these matters. I still have something to do. Excuse me. Do as you wish. Lu Yuan waved his sleeves and turned to walk in the direction of BB Dawn. Looking at Lu Yuan's back, the golden crocodile sighed, shook his head, and turned to leave. Alas, the child has grown up and his wings have hardened. I can't control him anymore. Lu Yuan walked forward and soon returned to Bibidin's side. Finished so quickly? Bibidin's eyes had a trace of surprise. I didn't have much to say in the first place. It was over after a few sentences. Holding Bibidin's jade hand, Lu Yuan said softly, Did that old man come to question you about making me the empress? BB Dawn asked softly. I knew I couldn't hide anything from you. Lu Yuan smiled and admitted, Despicable old man. Hearing this, BB Dawn snorted with strong dissatisfaction. All right, Grandpa Golden Crocodile is already old. Moreover, he is also concerned about Cher. Don't bother with him. Lu Yuan persuaded in a low voice. He only cares about Chihiro Snow. He says he treats you like a grandson, but he has never stood on your side. If he is not reprimanding you, he is criticizing you. It must be hard for you to endure it. BB Dawn snorted. Lu Yuan smiled and said, I don't have many relatives. He is one of them. I don't mind being scolded. You. BB Dawn sighed softly. Others thought that Lu Yuan was cruel and merciless, but in fact, he was a very sentimental person. He was also very good to the people around him as long as you had his approval. Chapter 1081. News of Lu Yuan's ascension to the throne and his marriage to BB Dawn quickly spread across the entire continent under Bibidin's instructions. Now that the martial Soul Empire had unified the entire continent, they were able to spread news extremely quickly. Very soon, the leaders of many organizations received these two important pieces of news. Just like what Lu Yuan had promised to BB Dawn, He was going to hold a grand wedding for BB Dawn. He wanted everyone in the world to watch this wedding. Every faction with brains had received an invitation from the Martial Spirit Palace. The Dragon King Hall. As a super organization founded by Lu Yuan, the Dragon King Hall and the Martial Soul Palace were part of the Martial Soul Empire, but they were independent. They didn't have to follow the Martial Soul Empire's rules. Instead, they directly received Lu Yuan's orders. After the Martial Soul Empire was established, the Dragon King Hall was the first to receive an invitation as the only super sect in the world. Furthermore, it was an invitation letter personally written by Lu Yuan. A group of people gathered in the main hall of the Dragon King Hall. Master has sent a letter saying that he will ascend to the throne on the 5th of next month. He will also marry the current Holy Emperor. When that happens, all the titled Douluo of the Dragon King Hall will attend the ceremony. Yin Xiaojia held an invitation letter made of pure gold in his hand as he spoke. Hall Master is going to ascend to the throne and get married? That's a big deal. Douluo raised his eyebrows and said, "It's indeed a big deal." Furthermore, from Master's orders, it seems like he's very concerned about this matter. As Master's subordinates, we can't embarrass him. Jing Hongqin said, "I suggest that not only do all the titled Douluo of the Dragon King Hall attend the ceremony, we also have to prepare a gift." Ma Xiaotao's fiery red eyes flashed with a bright light as she spoke. Xiaotao is right. We should prepare well. If we want to give something, we should give something big. Yin Xiaojia blinked and looked at Jing Hongqin. Elder Hongqin, how's your research on Class 9 soul tools going? We've already created 16 Class 9 soul tools, including 8 Class 9 stationary soul cannons and 40 Class 9 stationary soul cannon shells. Jing Hongqin said. He had basically created all of these Class 9 soul tools by himself. However, he was limited by the materials used and the complexity of Class 9 soul tools, so he had only managed to create a few over the years. Send half of it over along with some Class 8 and Class 7 soul tools, as well as some other precious items. That should be enough. Elder Douluo, I'll leave the rest to you, said Yin Xiaojia. Leave it to this old man. Douluo patted his chest and said, "Leave the soul tools to me." Jing Hongqin said after Douluo, "Yes, that's how it should be. I'll have to trouble you then, Elder Hongqin." Yin Xiaojia said with a nod, "That's what I should do." Jing Hongqin shook his head and said. Yin Xiaojia smiled and turned to look at Ma Xiaodao. "Xiaodao, you can go ahead first. Master is about to ascend to the throne and get married. There are many complicated matters to attend to. Go and help Master. I believe Master needs your help too." "Yes, teacher." After hearing Yin Xiaojia's words, Ma Xiaotao's eyes brightened, and she said crisply, "Yes." Yin Xiaojia acknowledged and said, "That's all for now. Everyone, go and make your preparations." After he finished speaking, Douluo, Jing Hongqin, and the rest dispersed and went to do their jobs. 7 Treasures Glazed Sect. The Martial Soul Empire had unified the continent. Among the 3 upper sects, the 7 Treasures Glazed Sect was the only survivor. Because they had chosen the right side, the 7 Treasures Glazed Sect didn't decline. Instead, they benefited from this war, and their sect's strength increased significantly. Fengji, what did Obuchi say in his letter? The sword Douluo, who had neatly combed silver hair, asked softly beside Ning Fengji. "What else can he say? He invited me to attend the ceremony." "Good lad. He actually dares to marry his teacher in such a grand manner. He's really capable," Ning Fengji said loudly, and there was a glimmer in his eyes. Previously, Lu Yuan had announced his relationship with BB Dawn to the entire continent. Now, Lu Yuan's actions had completely shocked him. Of course, Obuchi dares to do it. There's nothing he doesn't dare to do. He probably doesn't care about the opinions of the world. If he wants to marry BB Dawn, who would dare to say no? The sword Douluo said, "Yes, everything in this world is fake. Only strength is eternal. If he's strong, so what if he wants to marry his teacher? Who would dare to object? I'm afraid many people will say that this is true love. Perhaps this will become a legend in the future." Ning Fengji sighed. The strong set the rules, and the victors wrote history. Under the arrangements and portrayals of people, Lu Yuan and Ma Xiaotao's love might become a legend. Don't believe? Do you want to know more about the Condor heroes? Cough, cough. Too much nonsense. Ning Fengji's gaze drifted. After a moment, he focused and said, "This matter is extremely important to Obuchi. Obuchi has arranged this to announce his love for Bibi-dan to the entire continent. Secondly, it's also a test. Those who don't give face to Obuchi will be dealt with one by one after he ascends to the throne. We're already tied together with Obuchi. We're bound together for good or ill. We have to fully support this matter. Uncle Jian, when the time comes, you and Uncle Gu will go with me," Ning Fengji said with a serious expression. "I understand," the sword Douluo said with a nod. "Sigh." Ning Fengji suddenly sighed. There was a hint of melancholy in his eyes. "What's wrong, Fengji?" the sword Douluo asked. "I'm just thinking that Obuchi is going to marry Bibi-dan soon. I don't know when it'll be Rongrong's turn. This engagement has been set for 5 years already." Ning Fengji sighed. "That's right. I think this kid doesn't care about Rongrong at all. When we go to the ceremony, I have to ask him properly. Since he's already slept with Rongrong, then he should hurry up and marry her. What's the point of leaving her hanging?" The sword Douluo said indignantly. "That's right. However, you have to watch your tone, Uncle Jian. This kid has a bad temper. He's amenable to coaxing, but not coercion," Ning Fengji said. "Don't worry, Fengji. I know what to do," the sword Douluo said. "All right." Ning Fengji nodded with a deep look in his eyes. The current Seven Treasures Glaze sect had a close relationship with Lu Yuan. It could even be said that they were completely dependent on Lu Yuan. If they wanted to become stronger, they couldn't do without Lu Yuan. Although Ning Rongrong was engaged to Lu Yuan, they weren't married yet. Only when they were married could Ning Fengji truly relax and not worry about being abandoned. This was the deepest thought in his heart. Chapter 1082. Apart from the Dragon King Palace and the Seven Treasures Glaze sect that Lu Yuan had personally invited, the rest of the forces had also sent out invitations. It was foreseeable that the 5th day of the next month would definitely be a lively day. Martial Spirit Palace. It had been a week since the invitations were sent out. Currently, the Martial Spirit Palace was fully mobilized. After all, it was the day of the new emperor's ascension to the throne and the marriage of the current sacred emperor. They couldn't afford to be careless. The relevant departments were also meticulously planning for this ceremony. On the island in the middle of the lake, Lu Yuan and Bibi-dan were sitting in a pavilion drinking tea. Compared to the other busy people, the two of them, as the main characters, seemed to be quite leisurely. "This tea is not bad. Is it this year's new tea?" Lu Yuan took a sip of tea and smiled warmly. "I specially ordered someone to prepare it. Do you like it?" Bibi-dan smiled. "I like it." Lu Yuan put down the teacup and looked at Bibi-dan beside him with a smile in his eyes. "What's the date today?" Lu Yuan asked. "It's 20. There's still half a month before our wedding." Bibidan's beautiful pink eyes flickered with a trace of expectation. In half a month, she would be able to marry Lu Yuan and become Lu Yuan's wife. Lu Yuan pulled Bibi-dan into his arms and gently caressed her face as he said softly, "You've been waiting for a long time. What do you think? I really hope that time passes faster," Bibi-dan said tenderly. Lu Yuan smiled and lowered his head to kiss Bibidan's red lips. Bibidan's eyes flickered. Looking at the smiling Lu Yuan, she gently raised her head and moved her red lips closer. The two kissed and looked at each other, their eyes filled with tenderness. Gently hugging Bibi-dan and caressing her long purple hair, Lu Yuan felt exceptionally satisfied at this moment. The two hugged each other and looked at the beautiful scenery by the lake. A tranquil and elegant atmosphere pervaded the pavilion. A gentle breeze blew past, bringing with it the fragrance of lotus flowers, refreshing the mind. Suddenly, Lu Yuan raised his eyebrows and released Bibidan's red lips. "What's wrong?" Bibi-dan hugged Lu Yuan's neck, with a trace of puzzlement in her beautiful eyes. Someone's coming, Lu Yuan said softly. Bibbiden's big pink eyes blinked. Very few people came to the Lake Heart Island, and those maids never dared to disturb them. It's an acquaintance. Lu Yuan smiled and patted Bibbiden's perky butt. Bibidon pouted and reluctantly climbed down from Lu Yuan's lap and sat beside Lu Yuan, gently pinching Bibidong's face. Lu Yuan's gaze shifted to the surface of the lake. On the surface of the lake, a fiery red figure was rushing over. Seeing Lu Yuan and Bibidong in the pavilion in the middle of the lake, the figure turned and headed straight for the two of them. The fiery red figure was extremely fast, but in the blink of an eye, it was in front of the two. The red light dissipated, revealing a beautiful face. Coupled with a fiery red dress, it was a valiant and formidable temperament. Looking at the person, Lu Yuan stood up with a gentle smile on his face. Then, he stepped forward and gently hugged her. The person paused and hugged Lu Yuan back. "Sister, why are you here?" Lu Yuan asked with a smile as he released his hug and looked at Ma Xiaotao in front of him. "Teacher heard that you're going to get married, so he specially asked me to come over and see if there's anything I can help with." A touch of tenderness flashed in Ma Xiaotao's eyes, but she quickly suppressed it and said with a smile, "I haven't seen Brother Yuan for a long time, and he's still so handsome." Ma Xiaotao thought to herself, "Is that so? Uncle Yin is so thoughtful." Hearing Ma Xiaotao's words, Lu Yuan smiled gently and reached out his right hand to tuck Ma Xiaotao's slightly messy fiery red hair behind her ear. Looking at her travel-worn appearance, he couldn't help but feel a surge of concern in his heart. "Sister, you didn't rest much on the way here, right? Come, sit down and have a cup of tea." Lu Yuan pulled Ma Xiaotao to sit down, then smiled and poured her a cup of tea. "Thank you, Brother Yuan." Ma Xiaotao drank it in one gulp, and her expression immediately relaxed. The tea here was specially made. It cleared away heat and tiredness, refreshed the mind, and had extraordinary effects. After all, it was something that Lu Yuan and Bibidon drank. Naturally, the quality would not be low. "Come, drink another cup. Look at how thirsty you are." Lu Yuan poured another cup for Ma Xiaotao. Ma Xiaotao smiled and drank it in one gulp. After drinking 2 cups of tea in a row, she felt a lot more comfortable. "Brother Yuan, is there anything I can help you with?" Ma Xiaotao asked aloud. "Actually, there's nothing to be busy with. You can accompany Dong Air these days. On the day of the wedding, I'll have to trouble you to comb Dong Air's hair. Dong Air and I don't have any female elders, so I can only trouble you, sister," Lu Yuan said softly. "Okay, just leave it to me." Ma Xiaotao smiled and looked at Bibidon with a trace of imperceptible envy in her eyes. However, Bibidon was very sensitive, and as a woman, her intuition had always been very accurate. Looking at Ma Xiaotao's appearance, she couldn't help but shake her head in her heart. Another woman who was captivated by Lu Yuan's charm. This little man of hers was indeed outstanding, but his ability to flirt with women was also extraordinarily valiant. "Oh right, Obuchi, has your father sent someone to pick you up?" Bibidon seemed to have thought of something and asked. "Not yet. When the time comes, I'll personally invite him over. Also, you can't call me father in the future. You should call us father," Lu Yuan said with a smile. Bibbiden's pretty face turned red and said angrily, "I know, father, okay. Okay, good wife." The smile on Lu Yuan's face became even wider. Bibbiden's pretty face turned even redder, and she was full of shyness. Coupled with her peerless appearance, she was really very charming. Ma Xiaotao looked on enviously and suddenly said, "Brother Yuan, don't forget about Xiaoer." "Don't worry, I remember," Lu Yuan said aloud. "There's also Na and the rest. Bring them back too," Bibidon said lightly. Na. Lu Yuan was silent for a moment. To be honest, he really didn't want to go to Sea God's Island for the time being. Pasizi was too powerful, and he looked at him with hidden bitterness. He couldn't handle it. Na and the rest haven't finished their assessment, so they probably can't leave for the time being. Why don't we just forget about it?" Lu Yuan said softly. A look of disappointment appeared on Bibidon's face. The two people she cared about the most right now were Lu Yuan and Hulina. If Hulina wasn't at her wedding with Lu Yuan, she would feel that something was missing. As she thought about it, she looked at Lu Yuan with her big, pitiful eyes. Forget it, forget it. I'll go, okay? I promise I'll bring Nana back for you. Seeing Bibidon's pitiful look, Lu Yuan couldn't stand it and said immediately, Chapter 1083. Hee hee, you're the one who said it. You're not allowed to go back on your word. Bibidon chuckled when she heard Lu Yuan's words. I won't go back on my word. He glared at Bibidong. How could he not know that Bibidong was deliberately pretending to be disappointed and pitiful for him to see? This woman was really getting better and better at acting. The more beautiful a woman was, the better she was at lying. This saying was true. Hee hee. Bibidon chuckled and looked at Lu Yuan's drooping face. She took the teapot and poured a cup of tea for Lu Yuan. Come, Obuchi, have a cup of tea. Lu Yuan glanced at Bibidon with a helpless expression. He picked up the teacup and drank it in one gulp. See God's island. Lu Yuan's figure suddenly appeared in the air above the ring-shaped sea. Although he didn't want to come to see God's island, he had promised Bibidon. Even if he didn't want to, he still had to make a trip. When he released his divine sense, there was no one on the ring-shaped sea. Where is she? Lu Yuan frowned and said indifferently. Just as Lu Yuan spat out those two words, a beautiful figure in the sea god's palace suddenly opened her eyes. A smile appeared on her flawless face. Her figure flashed and disappeared from the sea god's palace. There was a slight fluctuation in the space. Lu Yuan raised his eyebrows slightly and looked over. A figure came into view, and the corner of his mouth could not help but twitch. The person who had just arrived had beautiful eyebrows and a high nose bridge. Her beautiful face was as pure and flawless as jade. A pair of big eyes were deep and bright like the full moon. Her cherry lips were slightly pursed, and her lips were red and moist. She exuded a moving charm as she trembled slightly. A head of long blue hair fluttered in the wind. Coupled with her gorgeous robes, she exuded a graceful and intellectual aura. Who else could it be but Pasizi? You don't seem to want to see me. Pasizi's voice was crisp and sweet. It was even more pleasant than the voice of an oriole. She walked towards Lu Yuan step by step. How is that possible? You're thinking too much. Why wouldn't I want to see you? Lu Yuan said quickly. Oh, is that so? So you really want to see me? Then why haven't I seen you after leaving for so long? Pasizi's pretty face stiffened slightly. It had been almost half a year since Lu Yuan had sent Neptunia here. If it was the same as before, it would be fine. But now that this guy could control the power of space, he could arrive there in an instant. Yet, he hadn't come even once in such a long time. Pasizi was quite dissatisfied. Ahem, I'm busy. I can't leave. Lu Yuan coughed, touched his nose, and said, Are you that busy? You can't even take out so little time? Pasizi looked at Lu Yuan suspiciously. Of course I'm busy. I'm busy unifying the continent and dealing with evil soul masters. I'm really busy. Lu Yuan said seriously. If that's the case, are you still very busy? Pasizi looked at Lu Yuan closely. I do have some things to do. Lu Yuan said. What is it? Pasizi asked. That I'm getting married. Lu Yuan looked at Pasizi and said softly. What did you say? Pasizi was stunned at first. Then, she couldn't help but exclaim. This. Lu Yuan touched his lips. A trace of golden blood was very eye-catching. His lips were cut again. Let's go. I'll bring you to see Zhu Zhuqing and the rest. Pasizi tidied his robe and walked in front alone. Lu Yuan shook his head helplessly and followed behind Pasizi. Hey, you still owe me something. Do you remember? Pasizi stopped and looked at Lu Yuan. I remember. You have something for me to do? Lu Yuan asked. Yes, but it's not now. It's in the future. I'll tell you then. Pasizi said plainly. Oh. Lu Yuan replied casually. Speaking of which, Lu Yuan, shouldn't you be responsible for me? Pasizi suddenly said as they walked. Responsible? I don't think I've seen your body. Lu Yuan said softly. You still want to see my body? You're a pervert. Pasizi spat and stepped on Lu Yuan's foot fiercely. Then, she turned around and walked forward quickly. How am I a pervert? Lu Yuan was speechless. How did he act like a hooligan? This woman is unreasonable. Lu Yuan complained and quickly followed. The surrounding scenery disappeared before the two of them. Not long after, the two of them arrived at bay. They saw 10 huge pillars made from deep-sea, heavy silver standing in the sea. Hulaina and the others were tied to the pillars and were being washed by the seawater. We're here. Help yourself. I'll go first, Pasizi said plainly. Hey, wait. Lu Yuan grabbed Pasizi's wrist. Is there anything else? Pasizi asked plainly. What's wrong with you? Are you angry? Lu Yuan asked tentatively. No, I just don't want to talk to an irresponsible man, Pasizi said with a cold face. I'm irresponsible? Lu Yuan's mouth twitched. He admitted that he was a playboy. But when did he have no sense of responsibility? Wasn't this nonsense? You kissed me, and you're not responsible. You stinky man with no sense of responsibility. Pasizi looked wronged. I remember that you kissed me forcefully, Lu Yuan said faintly. You kissed me too. You kissed me, so you have to be responsible. Pasizi said. You're twisting words and forcing logic. Lu Yuan was speechless. This woman's logic was really powerful. Did you want to kiss her? I don't care. Anyway, you kissed me. You took advantage of me. You have to be responsible. Pasizi said. Damn, you're being unreasonable. Lu Yuan was shocked. Is this the woman's unreasonable pestering? You want to reason with a woman? Pasizi sneered. Then I want to talk about it. Aren't you leaving? Take care. I won't send you off. I won't serve you anymore. Lu Yuan waved his hand and said indifferently. Bastard. Pasizi stepped on Lu Yuan's foot again and left angrily. This woman is hard to deal with. Lu Yuan shook his head. It would be a lie to say that he didn't have a good impression of Pasizi. After all, Pasizi was so beautiful. He was also a fan of beauty. It was normal to like her. If Pasizi really liked him and sincerely pursued him, it wasn't that he couldn't agree. But he didn't like this kind of forceful approach. According to her logic, the woman deliberately kissed him and deliberately took off her clothes in front of him. Did he have to be responsible? Wasn't this nonsense? If she was angry, then she was angry. He wasn't going to coax her. She wasn't his girlfriend. He was too lazy to spoil her bad habit. Lu Yuan complained in his heart. He turned and walked in the direction of Hulina. Chapter 1084. Walking on the surface of the sea, Lu Yuan sized up these deep-sea heavy silver pillars. The deep-sea heavy silver pillars went straight to the bottom of the sea, and the part that stuck out of the water was more than 30 meters high. With the astonishing density of the deep-sea heavy silver, this deep-sea heavy silver pillar probably weighed more than 1,000,000 kilograms. As expected of the sea god, he's really rich. Sure enough, the sea is the richest. Lu Yuan couldn't help but exclaim. The deep-sea heavy silver was a very precious metal. Its price was more than 10 times that of gold at the same weight. And the most important thing was that it was priceless. After all, the deep-sea heavy silver had always been rare and difficult to find. Moreover, it was difficult to forge. It was not something that ordinary blacksmiths could do. It was a top-notch forging material, and once forged, it would be quite outstanding. It was hard to imagine that so much deep-sea heavy silver would appear in one place at the same time. In the whole world, perhaps only the sea god could do such a thing. Lu Yuan continued to move forward, and one figure after another appeared in front of him. The two people who were furthest away from him were tied to two pillars. They were also the ones who were the deepest in the sea, and also the ones who had suffered the most severe tempering. These two people were naturally Hulina and Zhu Qing. His gaze shifted and landed on the figures in front of him. They didn't notice Lu Yuan. First, because the sound of the waves covered the conversation between Lu Yuan and Pasizi. Second, because they had been tempering their bodies for a long time and were afraid that the seawater would invade their eyes. They all closed their eyes. His double pupils slightly narrowed, and a beautiful figure in a light yellow dress entered Lu Yuan's eyes. Lu Yuan smiled and walked in her direction. Lu Yuan's tall figure stood in front of her, blocking the sunlight. Lu Yuan reached out and gently stroked her pale face. Suddenly being touched on her face, Ning Rongrong was shocked. Which bastard dares to touch this old lady's face? Ning Rongrong opened her eyes and shouted with a face full of anger. However, when she saw Lu Yuan's figure, she couldn't help but freeze. Her beautiful face that was originally full of anger was suddenly filled with a gentle smile, and her entire body suddenly had an additional noble and elegant temperament. Little Rongrong, it's been a while since we last met. Your temper has grown. Lu Yuan had a gentle smile on his face. Ning Rongrong's performance made him fully understand what it meant to change faces instantly. Changing faces faster than flipping the pages of a book. Have you seen it before? Anyway, Lu Yuan had just seen him. Oh, Buqi, Ning Rongrong called out sweetly, her ice blue eyes filled with joy at seeing him again. Oh, Buqi, I feel terrible. Ning Rongrong pouted her small mouth. Although the tidal body tempering exercise wasn't dangerous, the feeling was rather unpleasant. After being battered by the sea water for an entire day, her entire body felt limp and numb. Pinching Ning Rongrong's nose, Lu Yuan said with a smile, "You can only rise to the top after suffering the most hardships. Good luck." Ning Rongrong, I just want you to coax me, comfort me, and give me some warmth for being doted on. In the end, you're telling me to do it? Do I know to do it? Ning Rongrong's big eyes were filled with resentment. Silly girl. Looking at Ning Rongrong's resentful expression, Lu Yuan couldn't help but smile. This girl was still so innocent and adorable. With a slight movement of his fingers, a white light enveloped Ning Rongrong, and the clear energy and divine power instantly dispelled all of Ning Rongrong's exhaustion. Ah, so comfortable. Feeling warm all over her body, Ning Rongrong opened her mouth slightly and couldn't help but let out a moan. This voice was soft and seductive, causing Lu Yuan's body and mind to involuntarily move. All right, stop shouting. Don't you feel embarrassed? Lu Yuan hurriedly stopped her. It's not embarrassing. How can it be embarrassing in front of you? We've already met each other openly, and I'm already yours. I'm not afraid. Ning Rongrong said coquettishly. Lu Yuan, he actually had no words to refute this. Oh, Buqi, Ning Rongrong called softly again. What's wrong? Lu Yuan asked. Ning Rongrong pouted. Lu Yuan shook his head. Her face had been soaked in seawater, and he didn't want to kiss it. You despise me. Ning Rongrong's eyes reddened, and it seemed like tears were about to fall from her eyes. I give up. Lu Yuan sighed in exasperation before planting a kiss on Ning Rongrong's cherry lips. Lu Yuan released Ning Rongrong's red lips and pinched her little cheeks in exasperation as he said, Is that enough? Hee, I'm very satisfied. Ning Rongrong giggled, and her big eyes curved into crescents. Little girl, you're so mischievous. Lu Yuan caressed her cheek with a smile and said, Then you continue to refine your body. I'll go check on Zhu Qing and the others. Go. Ning Rongrong said with a smile. In any case, she had already kissed him first, so it wasn't a loss. Oh, you. Lu Yuan smiled and turned to walk forward. Boss, Temple Master, Your Highness Chosen One. When they saw Lu Yuan, Ma Hongjun, Fu Qinsheng, Evil Moon, and the others all greeted Lu Yuan one by one. Continue to work hard, Lu Yuan said, and headed straight for the two deep-sea heavy silver pillars at the front. These two deep-sea heavy silver pillars were the largest. Zhu Qing, who was wearing black tights, and Hu Lina, who was wearing a golden white robe, were both trying their best to resist the seawater's invasion. When they saw Lu Yuan, their eyes couldn't help but light up. Oh, Buqi, why are you here? Hulina couldn't help but ask in surprise when she saw Lu Yuan. I missed you guys. Lu Yuan took 2 steps forward, tidied up the 2 women's hair that was wet and stuck to their cheeks, and said with a smile. Really? Hulina raised her eyebrows and asked doubtfully. Of course it's true. Lu Yuan said in all seriousness. At least you still have some conscience, Hulina said with a pout. Lu Yuan smiled faintly, took 2 steps forward, and gently caressed Hulina's pale and haggard face. His eyes couldn't help but flash with a touch of pity. Look at how haggard you are. It really makes my heart ache. Lu Yuan's tone was full of tenderness. Hearing Lu Yuan's words full of affection and sweetness, Hulina's heart suddenly surged with great joy, and her eyes flickered with affection. She hadn't heard Lu Yuan's words full of affection for a long time. Obuchi, Hulina couldn't help but call out softly, and her pink eyes surged with light. Nana, Lu Yuan also called out softly, and the two were getting closer and closer. Ahem! Just when Lu Yuan and Hulina were about to touch each other, a cough suddenly sounded, interrupting the two. Lu Yuan turned around and saw Zhu Zhuqing staring straight at him with her big black eyes, and there was a hint of indignation on her pretty face. Zhu Zhuqing looked at Lu Yuan and snorted softly. Chapter 1085. Zhuqing. Lu Yuan could not help but look at Zhu Zhuqing. Zhu Zhuqing scoffed again. There was a hint of dissatisfaction on her pretty face, and she was secretly jealous. Hulina looked haggard. Wasn't she haggard? She only cared about her, but she did not care about herself. Biased. Zhu Zhuqing complained in her heart. Are you jealous, little greedy cat? Lu Yuan smiled, looking at Zhu Zhuqing. This girl's jealous personality had not changed at all. Who's jealous? I don't care about being jealous. Zhu Zhuqing lifted her head proudly. As a noble 9 lives lynx, she had her pride too. All of a sudden, Zhu Zhuqing let out a whimper. Her big eyes were wide open, and whatever pride she had was gone. Not bad. Lu Yuan licked his lips and said with a faint smile. Zhu Zhuqing's pretty face blushed. She lowered her head slightly, and all of her anger disappeared. Your body is getting better and better. As expected of Zhuqing. Lu Yuan said in satisfaction as he sized Zhu Zhuqing up. Zhu Zhuqing's cheeks turned even redder, but she straightened her body quietly. I'm big, I'm proud. Hulina pouted, watching Zhu Zhuqing's actions. Big cow, what's there to be proud of? Hulina smiled as she lowered her head to look at hers. They're not small either. Moreover, the proportions are perfect. Big cow, the balance is broken. While Hulina praised herself, she could not help but think about Zhu Zhuqing. All right, I'm still jealous. Zhu Zhuqing was gifted. Very few women would not be jealous when they saw her. Apart from Zhu Zhuyan, Lu Yuan had never seen anyone who could beat Zhu Zhuqing in this aspect. Obuchi, Hulina called out seductively. Her voice was mesmerizing. Lu Yuan shuddered, feeling as if he was floating. He had to admit that Hulina's seduction was really irresistible when Lu Yuan did not resist on purpose. Come on. Seeing Hulina like that, Lu Yuan knew what she was thinking. He immediately kissed her. Hulina responded passionately, and the two kissed. It still feels familiar. Hulina's face was filled with satisfaction. However, when she saw Lu Yuan's slightly broken lips, she asked doubtfully, Obuchi, why are your lips broken? I accidentally bit it. Lu Yuan's eyes flickered as he said. Accidentally bit? Hulina's eyes flashed as she asked. Could it have been teacher? More or less? Lu Yuan said. Yes, it was indeed similar. It was just that the names were different. Oh, Hulina's nose twitched. A strange light flashed in her eyes as she said indifferently. By the way, Obuchi, is it really okay for you to come here? Hulina asked again. She didn't believe that Lu Yuan would come to the Sea God's Island for no reason. There's something I need to do, so I'm here to bring you back, Lu Yuan said softly. Bring me back? Why are we going back? Hulina asked in puzzlement. I'm going to marry Dong Air, Lu Yuan said softly. He told her about how he had unified the continent, established a country, and was going to marry BB Dawn. Wow, you're so good to teacher. Teacher is so lucky. When she heard that Lu Yuan was going to announce his relationship with BB Dawn to the entire continent, and Mary BB'd on in front of the entire continent. Stars appeared in Hulina's eyes. Zhu Zhuqing's eyes were also filled with envy. There was a trace of yearning on her face. Which girl didn't want to have such a grand wedding? They wanted it too. Don't worry, you two will have it too. I won't treat you unfairly, Lu Yuan said gently as he rubbed the two girls' heads. As long as it was his woman, he would give them an absolutely grand wedding. He would definitely not let them suffer. That's more like it. The two girls heaved a sigh of relief. However, there was a trace of joy in their eyes. How's your test going? Lu Yuan asked with concern. Hee, you came at the right time. Our test ends next week. We'll definitely be in time to attend your wedding with teacher. Hulina giggled. Is that so? Lu Yuan smiled. It was indeed a coincidence. However, thinking about it carefully, it had been almost a year since he had left the sea god's island and returned to the continent to absorb his 8th soul ring. In another month, he would be 20 years old. Time flies. Lu Yuan sighed softly. Sun Moon Continent, Holy Ghost Church's headquarters. The Holy Divine Palace was the tallest building in the Holy Ghost Church. It was the palace of the Holy Ghost Church's leader. Only the 4 emperors and those who were above them could enter this place. For example, the 2 deceased emperors, the 2 holy disciples, and the supreme ruler of the Holy Ghost Church, the Holy Ghost Church's leader. Inside the Holy Divine Palace, there was a spatial gate in front of a huge statue. A tall figure stepped into it and disappeared into a strange space. There was a huge altar in the space. The altar was in the shape of a hexagram. It was more than 200 meters in diameter. There were 6 huge pillars that reached hundreds of meters in length at the 6 corners of the altar. These huge pillars were bright red. They were the color of blood. There were also black, demonic patterns on the pillars. They looked abnormally evil. There were many complicated runes on the altar. In the center of the altar, there was a hexagram stone pillar that protruded. It was about 2 meters tall. There was a black crystal floating above it. It emitted a grayish-black fog. Every wisp of fog seemed to have a life of its own. It floated in the air and let out a sinister and sharp roar. The evil sound made one's hair stand on end. However, the figure didn't seem to feel anything. He continued to walk on the altar with a calm expression. This was a middle-aged man. His face was ordinary, but the aura he exuded was very tyrannical. Especially his half-gray and half-white hair. It was particularly unusual. He walked with big strides. When he was 3 meters away from the hexagram, he suddenly bent his knees and kowtowed to the black crystal. Master, your subordinate, Cho Mui, wishes to see you, the middle-aged man said respectfully. How did it go? The black crystal suddenly lit up. A black shadow appeared. The black fog revolved around the black shadow. The black shadow's face couldn't be seen clearly. Only a pair of red eyes stood out. There seemed to be something flapping behind him. The middle-aged man's body trembled. He said softly, "We encountered an unknown enemy. The mission failed. The Poison Queen, Bee Empress, White Arch, and the others are all dead." Trash. Hearing the middle-aged man's words, the black shadow shouted angrily. Suddenly, an invisible force came out. The middle-aged man's body flew back 100 meters. He spat out a mouthful of blood. Chapter 1086. The middle-aged man fell to the ground, and the strong vibration caused him to spit out a mouthful of blood. The blood splattered on the altar and was slowly swallowed. The middle-aged man didn't seem to feel anything. He got up and knelt in front of the hexagram pillar again, his head touching the ground. "Master, please calm down. It's all my fault. Please punish me," the middle-aged man said in a deep voice. "Of course it's your fault, you piece of trash." The black shadow's scarlet eyes revealed a ferocious look. A red mist enveloped the middle-aged man's body. The middle-aged man immediately let out a mournful howl. His veins popped out, revealing a dark red color. It was exceptionally ferocious. The middle-aged man spun back and forth on the ground, gritting his teeth. The pain that could make an expert like the middle-aged man become like this was unimaginable. This king didn't even bother with you when you failed the first mission. I even personally helped them increase their strength. In the end, they were all wiped out the second time. What use do I have for trash like you? The black shadow's voice became stern, and the red mist became thicker. The middle-aged man's wails became even more shrill. Master, please spare my life. The middle-aged man grabbed the ground with both hands and begged with difficulty. Useless thing. The black shadow snorted and slowly withdrew the red mist. The middle-aged man heaved a sigh of relief and collapsed on the ground. Trash, get up now. The black shadow shouted sternly. The middle-aged man shuddered and got up. He knelt there respectfully. What the hell is going on? Although those two pieces of trash were trash, they were still limit Douluo. How could they die so easily? Tell me in detail. The black shadow's scarlet eyes focused and asked faintly. Emperor Bai and Emperor Qing's mission was going smoothly, and they were about to take down the northern ice fields. However, a person suddenly appeared that day and easily broke their martial soul fusion skill. He even killed them with a single slash. The middle-aged man lowered his head and said, "Oh." The black shadow was slightly surprised. Although those two pieces of trash weren't very strong, their martial soul fusion skill was so powerful that even you might not be able to resist it. They were definitely the strongest below the god rank. There's actually someone who can break their martial soul fusion skill and kill them. Could it be that a god has descended on the Douluo continent? What does that person look like? How old are you? The black shadow asked. That was a young man in his 20s. He was dressed in white and had a blood sword imprint on his forehead. He had a strong, murderous aura. One sword. He killed Emperor Bai and Emperor Qing with just one sword. The middle-aged man answered carefully. He had left something on Emperor Qing and Emperor Bai. As long as the two emperors could see it, he could see it too. Back then, Lu Yuan's Emperor's Sword, unparalleled chill, had really shocked him. The power of this move in the hands of Lu Yuan and in the hands of the Snow Emperor was completely different. Moreover, what was even more terrifying was that Lu Yuan did not release his martial soul at all. It was completely a dimensional reduction attack, like cutting melons and vegetables. This kind of strength was definitely not something that an ordinary person could possess. He guessed that this young man might have already reached the god realm. He panicked. Although he was strong, he could not possibly be a match for a god. Therefore, after hesitating for a long time, even if he knew that he would be punished by the Black Shadow, he still reported the truth. After all, without the Black Shadow's help, he could not possibly be a match for Lu Yuan, let alone invade the Douluo continent. That was simply impossible. A young man in his 20s with a blood sword imprint and a strong, murderous aura? Azura, it's you again. The Black Shadow's emotions suddenly fluctuated. The black fog that enveloped his body suddenly expanded. Mournful roars could be heard continuously, filled with evil. The middle-aged man looked at the Black Shadow with fear. This was the first time in history that he had seen the Black Shadow's emotions fluctuate so greatly. Azura? Who was this? Could it be that he had some conflict with Master? So Master was enraged when he heard his name? The middle-aged man was instantly curious. The Black Shadow's emotions fluctuated for a while before slowly returning to normal. There was an extremely strong, murderous aura in his scarlet eyes. You don't have to think about it. Don't think about things that you shouldn't know. The Black Shadow glanced at the middle-aged man indifferently. The coldness in his eyes made the middle-aged man's heart tremble involuntarily. I deserve to die. Master, please forgive me. The middle-aged man's forehead was drenched in cold sweat as he begged for mercy. You do deserve to die. If not for the fact that you are still somewhat useful, I would have killed you long ago. The Black Shadow snorted. After that, he changed the topic and said indifferently, in the god realm, there's an Azura god who controls the power of order. He is best at killing. His inheritance imprint is a blood sword. Therefore, if I'm not wrong, the young man that Emperor Qing and Emperor Bai met should be the successor of the Azura god. Judging from his ability to kill Emperor Qing and Emperor Bai with a single sword, this white-clothed young man has very likely accepted the Azura god position and become the Azura god. However, this is a good opportunity for me. Without the baptism of the immortal spirit Qi in the heavenly realm, the gods who inherit the god position in the mortal world will not be able to unleash their full strength. I could take advantage of this opportunity to kill this new Azura god and break the Azura god's inheritance. This way, there will be no more Azura god in the future. The heavens are really helping me. The Black Shadow laughed crazily. There was a hint of joy in his scarlet eyes. Chomui, the Black Shadow, shouted loudly. Your subordinate is here. Chomui said respectfully. This time, I'll bestow upon you extraordinary strength. You must help me kill the new Azura god, and then conquer the entire Douluo continent. As long as you complete your mission, I won't mistreat you, the Black Shadow said. Your subordinate obeys. Your subordinate will definitely complete this mission. Chomui said. Very good. The Black Shadow's scarlet eyes focused. Endless black fog rose up and entered Chomui's body. Immediately, Chomui began to howl in pain. Bear with it. This king's strength is not so easy to digest. If you can't bear it, your body will explode. The Black Shadow reminded. Many thanks for Master's concern. Your subordinate will definitely persevere. Chomui clenched his teeth and bitterly endured. As long as he could endure, he would be reborn. God-rank strength, this was what he had always pursued. For this, what was a little pain? He could bear it. Chomui clenched his teeth and clenched his fists until they creaked. He forcefully endured the intense pain in his body. Chapter 1087. Endless black fog emitted from the black crystal, completely wrapping around Chomui. The Black Shadow's scarlet eyes flashed, and a red light shot out from his eyes and shot into Chomui's eyes. Chomui's eyes turned blood red, and there was a cracking sound from his body. Chomui's aura suddenly rose rapidly, and he stepped into a whole new realm. Inside the Holy Divine Palace, Chomui stood in front of a statue. There were 4 people standing in front of him. One of them had a sturdy body and was a large man in gray clothes. The other had a long and narrow figure and was wearing a long green robe. The other 2 were young men. One of them was wearing a long blood-red robe, while the other was wearing a long black robe. Although the 2 of them were young men, their soul force was relatively strong. Only the 4 emperors and above could enter the Holy Divine Palace. There were only 5 of them in the Holy Divine Palace, and their identities were obvious. Other than Chomui, the burly man was one of the 2 remaining 4 emperors. He was called the Lion Emperor. He was also the strongest of the 4 emperors and was half a step into the limit domain. The long and narrow man beside the Lion Emperor was called the Scorpion Emperor. He was also one of the 4 emperors and a rank 98 peak Douluo. The original 4 emperors were the Lion Emperor, the Scorpion Emperor, the Bee Emperor, and the Blood Emperor. After the Blood Emperor died, the Poison Emperor replaced the Blood Emperor and became the new 4 emperors. It could be said that the 4 emperors of the Holy Ghost Church and Lu Yuan really clashed. Out of the 4 emperors, 3 had died because of Lu Yuan. Furthermore, he had killed the green and white emperors. It could be said that the Holy Ghost Church's strength had collapsed because of Lu Yuan. The 2 youths beside the Lion Emperor and the Scorpion Emperor were the current holy sons of the Martial Soul Palace. One of the youths could be said to be an old acquaintance of Lu Yuan's. Soul Devil Feather. His martial soul was the Demon Sword. He was 29 years old and a rank 86 Soul Douluo. He was also the first holy son of the Martial Soul Palace. The other youth was naturally Junia. His martial soul was the Judgment Demon Dragon King. He was also 29 years old, a rank 85 Soul Douluo, and the second holy son of the Martial Soul Palace. Whether it was Soul Devil Feather or Junia, they both had the potential to reach level 99. In terms of talent, They were definitely the best in the world. At the same time, they were also Cho Mui's direct disciples. The two of them were fellow apprentices. However, the Holy Ghost Church had always been cruel. The two of them were fellow disciples, but they were also competitors. It was destined that only the victor could inherit the position of the church leader. As for the fate of the loser, it was needless to say. Cho Mui looked at the four people in front of him, his eyes faintly fluctuating. The once powerful Holy Spirit Church only had so few people left. It really made one sigh. It was all because of that hateful new Azure god. However, with his master's gift, he would definitely be able to kill the new Azure god. As Cho Mui thought about it, his eyes couldn't help but flash with a faint light. Retracting his gaze, Cho Mui said to the four of them, "You all know that the mission failed last time. The Saint God is very unhappy about this failure, but the Saint God is merciful and is willing to give us another chance. This time, we must complete the mission beautifully and control the Douluo continent in one fell swoop." As Cho Mui spoke, light gathered in his hand, and a white-clothed figure appeared. It was Lu Yuan. Seeing Lu Yuan's image, Jun Ye's eyes flashed. He faintly had an idea in his heart. The one who caused our mission to fail last time is this person. His strength is profound, and he is not someone you can contend against. When you do things, you must be careful and avoid him. Once the spatial gate is constructed, I will personally deal with him. I wonder who is willing to go to the Douluo continent to construct the spatial gate this time. Cho Mui asked. Once these words were spoken, the holy divine palace fell silent. Even the green and white dual emperors had fallen. They were not willing to go on such a dangerous mission. Cho Mui looked at the Lion Emperor. The Lion Emperor scratched his head with a simple and honest appearance, as if he didn't know what Cho Mui was talking about. Cho Mui looked at the Scorpion Emperor. The Scorpion Emperor lowered his head, as if admiring his exquisite shoes. Cho Mui's eyes burned with anger. At this moment, Jun Ia stepped forward and said, "Teacher, disciple is willing to go." Oh, a smile appeared on Cho Mui's face. As expected, his disciple was reliable. "Little Yi, your willingness to go really comforts your teacher. If there's anything you need, just say the word. Teacher will agree to everything." Cho Mui smiled. "I want to bring grandfather, father, and the others along. We can take care of each other." Jun Ia said, Your grandfather and father are rare experts. Since you want to bring them along, then bring them along. How about this? I'll send the Lion Emperor to assist you. He'll listen to all your instructions." Cho Mui nodded. "What, I'll go to?" The Lion Emperor was shocked. How did it still involve him? "You have a problem with that?" Cho Mui narrowed his eyes and looked at the Lion Emperor with a trace of killing intent. This subordinate doesn't dare. The Lion Emperor trembled under Cho Mui's glare and hurriedly said, "It's best if you don't dare. When you reach the Douluo continent, you'll listen to Little Ye's arrangements. If you don't, you'll have a good time." Cho Mui threatened. Yes, this subordinate obeys. The Lion Emperor's heart was like a dog. He was a half step to the limit, but he had to listen to a rank 85 Soul Douluo. This was really sullen. That's more like it. Cho Mui nodded slightly and looked at Jun Ia. He took out 3 gray seeds and handed them to Jun Ia. The Lion Emperor and the others' eyes lit up. They had eaten these things before. It was because of these things that they, who were originally rank 96 or 97, could reach the peak of rank 98 and become half-step to the limit. These were definitely good things. "Teacher, this..." Jun Ia was stunned when he saw the 3 gray seeds that Cho Mui handed over. He also recognized these things. "Take them. The Douluo continent is very dangerous. You need to increase your strength so that you can complete your mission better." Cho Mui said, "Thank you, teacher." Jun Ia said softly as he kept the 3 gray seeds. "Okay, then go back and inform your father and the others. The plan is about to start. Don't waste any time." Cho Mui said, "Yes, teacher." This disciple will take his leave. Jun Ia bowed and slowly left. When he walked out of the Holy Divine Palace, his eyes lit up. He had finally found an opportunity. An opportunity to destroy the Holy Ghost Church in one fell swoop. Master, I hope you like this gift that the Judgment Demonic Dragon Clan has prepared for you. Jun Em muttered in his heart and flew out. He still had to discuss the specific details and implementation with the Judgment Demonic Dragon Clan. You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.